Hi.
Hi, Susan. It's Lois. Can you hear me?
Hi, I can't hear anyone.
Oh, okay. Can you see me?
That's my game.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Okay, do we have a quorum or?
What is quorum for?
I don't know. Do we need,
live
do we have a right enough people? We have. Should we get started?
Probably. What are we waiting on?
I don't know. Bob, you're muted.
Yeah, his lips are moving. He's not talking.
Sorry about that. Okay. Well, we're waiting on, guys, is we're waiting for Carter to come forward so that he can bring people forward. But Valerie, do you have that capability to bring, if people raise hands, that they can come forward? So I don't have that capability.
I'm here.
Only Carter?
Donna's set up as a host.
Sound.
Okay, so how do I?
Yeah, so let's start the meeting. We do have a quorum. And I'll introduce myself to everybody that is in attendance in the meeting. My name is Bob Ely. I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. This is the community board's SLA 1 and 2 meeting for the month. It's meeting 1 of me. There's 2 meetings this month. We're going to hear a number of applications tonight. And the way it's going to work, if you're not an applicant and you want to speak on a particular application, I just reference you to our community board website. There are questionnaires there that are posted, as well as our agenda. So you can look there if you need to. If you're an applicant or the lawyer or a representative of an application, what we'll do is I'll call the application and then bring you forward. You need to raise your hand so that we know who you are and we can bring you forward so that you guys can present. All right. We're getting used to Zoom, so everybody please bear with me, and we'll try to do this as quickly and expeditiously and as fair as we can, and give everybody an opportunity to speak who wants to speak on a particular item. Okay, and I think that does it. I saw, I saw that Donald Bernstein is here. And
Can you hear
if
me?
You guys could just Donald, could you raise
I
your
can't
hand?
hear Bob, though.
Oh,
You can't hear me?
Susan, we
I
can
see
hear
he's
you.
talking, but I can't hear him.
you can't hear him. We can hear him.
We can hear him.
Check the audio on your, can you hear me?
No, I don't hear anything.
Oh, okay. All right, we got it, Susan. We can hear you. Now you muted yourself, Susan.
Oh,
There, now we
okay,
can hear
push
you.
command.
Can you hear us?
Say something now.
Can you
Can you
hear
hear
us,
him?
Susan?
I don't know why.
Um,
You hear me, though.
Yeah.
we hear you. We hear you.
Check
So
the
you need to
volume.
fix on your line what's going on, okay?
Got it.
Okay, and if there's, got it, there we go. All right, so if there are, also if there are community board members that would like to be involved or like to say something or ask a question, there are members of our community board that are in attendance that are not on the SLA committee. You can raise your hand too if you have questions, okay? Now, Donald Bernstein, I noticed that you're in attendance. Could we let Donald come forward? Because I want to make sure that there's an application I think he's here on, but we're not going to hear that, and that might be some confusion. I want to clear that up so he doesn't spend the whole night here listening to us. Can you bring Donald forward?
Donald, you're unmuted. Can you? Donald?
Yep, I'm here.
There you go.
Okay.
Hey, Donald,
Yes.
are you here on Hyundai Motor? Is that why you're here?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a complication. I apologize for not shooting you back an email today. This application was heard. We just have it on our agenda because we don't have a full agreement on the stipulations yet. But
Bob, do you want me to address them? I mean, there were like 4 points or so. Or,
no, I think it's already been heard. And so what we usually do, the only reason it's on is because we haven't fully resolved the stipulations, but what we usually put on our calendar is that it's already been heard so that there's not going to be another presentation. So,
okay.
yeah, so I just wanted to cut right to the chase because I saw you there. You're not here on any other application, right?
No, that's it.
Yeah, so I didn't want to waste your time, that's all.
Okay, so you don't want to hear from us?
No, I think we have heard from you. We know specifically what you're looking for. And, we're just trying to work that out, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate, though, that you came back on, and I'm sorry for not communicating that to you earlier in the day.
Okay. All right.
Okay?
Okay,
Thank you, Donald.
thanks.
Just for clarification though, Bob, those stipulations, we'd have to vote on them, right? It's the
We're-
committee to have a position. So if they're unresolved,
How are we going to resolve them?
Well, that's true, Carter. There can be some discussion about it, but it doesn't involve another presentation, okay?
oh, fair enough. Okay.
Okay? Because there has been a presentation. I think it's pretty clear what they're interested in, and we just need to try to work that out. And so whether we work that as a group later on tonight, that's one thing, or we work it out in the stipulations, But in terms of the presentation, it's been taken care of, and I just didn't want to waste his time. Okay? All right, so we're going to start. If there's anybody here on Felix, Greene Street, Soho, if you could raise your hand and come forward.
How do we pull them forward? Okay, so allowed to. So this is Joseph Levy, right?
That's what I see. Joseph Lee. There's two hands I see. Matthew and Joseph.
Matthew.
I think we have a third also.
So,
Oh.
Yes,
okay,
there's
so-
Reagan.
oh, hang on. So I think okay, are you all in there that need to be in there?
Hello.
Reagan, can I hear you? I don't hear Reagan.
You guys hear me?
I hear you,
Yeah,
and I see you, Joseph. And Matthew, are you able to say something?
I'm here. How are you?
Okay, good. So is Reagan with you?
Yes.
Is he with your application? Okay,
Yes,
so Reagan, you got to figure out what's going on there so you can speak. All right, can you hear us, Reagan? Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
I don't see any audio on his thing.
Yeah. Reagan, can you hear me? Okay, if you can hear me, put a thumbs up in front of the picture so I can tell that you can actually hear me. No, he can't hear me. Okay. A little bit, so. Are you connected with him, Joseph?
Yeah, we're actually on another call in the background here that's on mute at the moment. So
Could you just talk to him and tell him what's going on so that we can get him, try to get his, because he can't hear us and we can't hear him.
yeah, let me do that. Hey Reagan, are you there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, so this is our separate phone call. Can you unmute yourself on the Zoom?
I am trying to.
We can hear him now.
Well,
Okay.
Joseph, why don't you have him try to call back in maybe, because maybe it's just the way he dialed in. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And can you present without him being online, or do we have to wait?
Yeah, you know what we can do, Bob, is I have, I'm calling him through like a voice over IP program on my computer. I could probably make the volume really loud and you can probably hear him through that.
That works. That works, because I
Okay.
could hear him.
Reagan, you got that? Hey, Reagan? All right. I don't know what happened. I just was talking to him.
Joseph, you still there?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hey, Reagan, what we're going to do is when it's your time to present, I'm gonna have you do so on this phone call, and I'm just going to make my volume really loud so they can hear you.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, so
Okay, so I think we're set. Mr. Levy, if you want to introduce you and your clients, tell us what your application is about. And you've been here in front of us many times before, so do the best you can and let us know exactly what's going on with this application.
yeah, this is certainly a new way to do this, but I think we can cover all bases here. So Joseph Levy here on behalf of Felix, Greene Street, Soho LLC. I have with me Matthew Moynihan and Reagan Petron, who are two of the owners of this project. What I'll do is I'll have them introduce themselves and explain a bit about the concept before I get into the nuts and bolts of the actual application. Matt, maybe we'll start with you, and then we'll move into Reagan for his piece, and I'll queue up my my other phone line here.
Hello, everybody. Can everyone hear me?
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Nice to meet all of you through interesting medium and through some seriously challenging times. My name is Matt Moynihan. I was born and raised in New York. This is the second outpost of our Felix Roasting Co. location. So a little bit about Felix Roasting Co. We are a specialty whole bean coffee company. And about 5 years ago, I became fanatically obsessed with coffee as a personal health initiative that I took. It really changed my life. And so 5 years ago, I decided that I wanted to leave everything behind and start what I thought was the most special, the most unique coffee company in the country. And so I spent years and years before we opened up our first location on Park Avenue South and 30th Street, about almost 2 years ago at this point, finding the best team with the best beans, our own roasting experts and masters. We have our design partner is a very famous designer, one of Architectural Digest Best 100. He is my partner in this project. We have a roasting master that picks out specialty beans from across the country, across the world, really, to be honest. We roast them ourselves. And then Reagan, my other partner, who is better at introducing himself, has several James Beard nominations, and he can talk about our concept as well. But mainly, we are a design-oriented, Felix experience-oriented coffee company. And this is our second location. And for the second location, I really wanted to have somewhere within walking distance of my own home. So I do live on Spring Street, a couple hundred feet from this location. And so obviously I'm very invested in the neighborhood. This is my home. And so I want to bring a little bit of what I do to my own neighborhood, so to speak. And so this is the second outpost for that.
Great. So let me introduce Reagan, and I'll unmute you, or I'll unmute myself.
Is my audio working now?
Oh, great.
Yes.
You're good.
Okay, got it. Sorry, that was a whole journey. So my name is Reagan Petrin. I'm actually from Kansas City originally, but I've worked all over the planet, now in New York for coming up on 3 years. I essentially do everything from the experience design to the actual product itself at Felix Roasting Company. So my whole kind of background is in really small scale kind of farm to table restaurant design and operations. I have a kind of a really conceptual bakery coffee shop in the Midwest that's been nominated now 4 times for JBF Awards. And that was kind of my jumping off point for Felix, which was kind of taking this like farm to table, really hyper specialty, super experiential, very intimate thing and bringing it to New York and doing it on a bigger scale. I've been doing coffee now for over a decade, everywhere from Tibet to mainland China to all over the States, Hong Kong. It's been my passion for a long time, and doing it in New York is something that's very special to us.
Okay, so as far as the application itself goes, as you heard from the guys, it is a coffee shop. They do sell coffee at retail. They do have on-premise dining with a healthy menu, coffee, beer, wine, and low ABV cocktails. As you've heard, this is their second location. First one opened in 2018 on Park Avenue South and 30th. They've really developed into a bit of almost like a lifestyle brand and have quickly become a staple in that community and a part of everyone's daily life in their community where they first opened. They focus on ingredients, on customer experience, and the reception has been outstanding. And as Matt mentioned, he's looking forward to open location number 2 in his own backyard in Soho. The application before you is for an on-premise license with hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday. It's less than 74 person capacity here, recorded background music only, 21 tables, 62 seats, 1 bar with 0 seats. And I'll just keep it short and sweet there and answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joseph, and thank you guys. So we had got a 30-day notice, Joseph, fairly recently, and could you explain why we got this 30-day notice, amended 30-day notice?
What do you mean an amended 30-day notice?
Yeah, we got some sort of 30-day notice. Maybe I'm mixing it up with another application, but you did not, there's not some sort of mezzanine that's involved?
There is. It's a ground floor and mezzanine. There are some steps up into the other seating area.
Okay, so
Steps.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's 4 or 5 steps. It's just the way that the space is kind of laid out.
And is that, so is that in the back area of the location or in the front? Where are these steps?
Evenly split.
I couldn't hear that.
I'd say it's evenly split.
So somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, the step up, it's about 4 steps, 5 steps in the middle of the space, yeah.
You can see on the diagram, it's right beyond the bar, Bob.
Okay, all right. And that's the only reason for the 30-day, the recent 30-day notice?
Correct.
Okay. And why would you have to serve a 30-day notice for that?
The way that
Or
examiners,
amended, sorry.
the way that the examiners are reviewing applications right now with a lot of new staff, something like that, where it wouldn't have said mezzanine on the first iteration we sent in, they would ask for us to re-notify you later in the process. So we figured we would just do it now because we know that depending on how picky the examiner is, it's something they could ask for later.
Okay, and Joseph, you said low ABV cocktails. What did you mean by that?
So this is not, as you can tell by the hours of operation and the menu and everything that's been submitted, this is not, you know, the type of establishment that's going to be just slinging martinis in a nightlife place. The idea here is not to get people drunk. The idea here is for people to come in and get something to eat, get a cocktail, and they're not looking to put anyone on their butts here. That's not what they're doing. They're focusing on different flavor profiles. You guys might be able to answer this better than I can, but the idea here is to supply people with drinks that are creatively curated and not that just have a lot of booze in them.
If I may, a really good example of kind of what we do is our espresso tonic, which is really a coffee drink, but it's kind of made like a cocktail. And it has a really small amount of Campari in it as a flavor element. So it's really not, you could have it at 11 a.m. and not even get buzzed, but it's such an important part of the way we make drinks, and it's such a big part of the experience is kind of combining coffee with these other flavor profiles that are unexpected. Not really a sit-down cocktail bar experience so much as an infusion of like coffee with a little bit of this more traditional stuff.
And that gets me into my next question, Reagan. Is you guys did not supply any cocktail or menu in any sort, so. You know, with an on-premise license, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted in terms of well drinks if you really wanted to go that direction. So
Sure.
Do you have some sort of cocktail drink menu?
Absolutely. There should be one in the packet. I don't know if that's on there.
I think we have a food menu, but I didn't see a drink menu.
Yeah, I did not see a drink menu. I saw a food menu.
Okay. For the sake of just being expeditious, I'll just kind of walk you through it if that's okay.
Please.
I would say we would potentially have something like the espresso tonic, which I mentioned earlier, and that's our homemade tonic water. Comes in like a wine glass, almost like an Amaro spritz. In that same vein, we would probably have a proper Aperol spritz, as well as potentially a barrel-aged cocktail that could be on draft, but that's a very low-volume kind of sipper. Additionally, we'll have a couple like well-curated beer and wine options, and potentially some sort of Amaro plus espresso martini situation. Really not, these are very pricey to make using expensive ingredients. Well drinks are really not our cup of tea.
Okay, so I have a hand up by one of our board members, Susan Wittenberg. I'm going to let her ask a question. Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, everyone. I live in that building, in the part of it that's 110 Greene. So I'm asking for other people who live in the building as well. First, we were surprised that you never reached out to us. You know, no one in my building knew this was being planned except me, because I'm on this committee. So that's unusual when we get an application to have no outreach from the applicant.
Of course, I do apologize. We've had a very, very fast moving lease situation on this, and we kind of just jumped right into the opportunity and started moving. So we did drop a lot of balls, and I apologize for that.
We also did notify 25 or so different block association community groups, which the board office directed us to. Sent out emails, and we got a couple bounce backs, but otherwise we had no feedback from any of the groups.
Yeah, we reached out to a couple dozen groups for the last 10 days or so. We haven't got any feedback or really many responses from any of them, but it was sorry for.
I'm on probably the mailing list for every community group, and I didn't get anything. So there's a bit of a fundamental
In the packet, there is a list of all the groups that we contact, which we got from the board office, and we double checked if there was any other information. And if your group is not on there,
Well, I'm not a group. I'm telling you that I live in the building and there was no outreach to the building. That's all. I'm happy you contacted groups.
yeah,
It didn't filter down.
fair enough. And if times were different, we absolutely would have. We asked that specific question about petitioning. We even sent that question to the board as well as the board office. And we were told that reaching out to the groups is really the best we can do at this point. Obviously, no one's out there interacting face-to-face with people at the time. So we're kind of doing the best we can here under the circumstances.
Okay, an email would have been a great reach out. Now, when you said the mezzanine, we had an application for a restaurant in this space a year or so ago. This is a space that has never been a restaurant before. So that, you know, you're asking for a full OP in a space that has been an art gallery or a clothing store. Do you know now with the mezzanine exactly what the square footage is?
Matt, do you have that on the top of your head?
Yeah, it's actually very easy because the step up is exactly halfway between the space, and the space is 1,800 square feet. So there, it's about 900 and 900. And when you live in the building, if you can see through the glass, it's technically a mezzanine, but it's really like 4 steps, 4 or 5 steps.
No, I've been in the space. I know. So it's about 2,500. Okay.
No, it's 900 in the front and then 900 in the mezzanine.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said 18. And who do you anticipate being the typical patrons, customers, guests?
We actually, one of the funnest parts about what we did, first we opened on Park Avenue and 30th, which I'm also, being born and raised in New York, I love the demographics of that neighborhood. Young, professional, technology, advertising, media, just, you know, where everyone gets their starter apartment in Manhattan.
I understand, but I'm just asking, you know, I know you love Park Avenue South. That's great. Who do you think the customer base is for this restaurant in Soho?
I think 90%, 80% of the customers are going to be local. They're going to be our neighborhood community people that we engage with all the time, that we know by first name when they, and their drink that they love to order. I think you're going to have 10%, maybe you're going to have 10% tourists that when we're on some great hit list for the coolest cafes in Manhattan, they'll come for that. And then you'll have probably another 10% miscellaneous or business people or what have you. But I would say the vast majority are neighborhood people.
So you think 80% of the people coming to your place, this would be like an upscale neighborhood bar cafe? Is that how you think of it? Local?
I would say, yeah, it's a place to meet. It's a place to grab a cup of coffee. It's like the no pressure, great atmosphere, great experience, alternative to, like me, for example, I would much rather go to a quiet, beautiful cafe than go to a nightclub or a restaurant or a bar that's noisy where you can't talk. I mean, we're really there. That's our niche. Our niche is a place to meet, relaxed atmosphere, great products, great drinks, building a vibe, building a community. That's really what we're all about.
I guess I'm just trying to get the idea of the language to describe what you're doing. I mean, that sounds really like you want to open a bar that's a neighborhood hangout where you could come in and get some cool drink. That's different than a coffee, like a coffee shop that's Starbucks that puts some liquor in.
The 7 and 8 a.m. start times and the 10 p.m. close time would negate any possibility of being a bar.
Well, not 10 p.m. close time. I'm sorry, you get an after work crowd, you know, that's hours after work. So there are a lot of places that are really busy until 10 at night. And, you know, like that building's an office building during the day. You might have people coming in for coffee. So I don't think one negates the other. I mean, I don't think being open for coffee negates a buzzy bar at night.
Of course. If you look at our numbers from Park Avenue, 80% of our sales come from coffee beverages, both morning and afternoon. We get a big 2 p.m. rush, but it's just for coffee and a bite to eat.
But that's a different neighborhood. You said you felt that your clientele was mostly people who lived in the neighborhood. So the people who go to Park Avenue South at 3 p.m. don't really matter in this. So at night, our building, which is an office building, empties out. I mean, who knows if anyone will ever work in the building again, but that's something else I wondered about in terms of your plan. But at night, you're relying on, based on what you're saying, 80%, a very quiet residential neighborhood to sustain a business this size.
I think that our business model won't allow for us to become a proper bar. I think all of our product on the back end. We're a vertically integrated company, so we're sourcing coffee, we're roasting coffee, we're distributing coffee. We're here to make coffee, and it would be a waste of our time to become a bar. That's really not what we're here for.
And what about events and big parties? Is that part of your concept?
We do include events, but the clients that we work with are only people who we think have a brand that complements ours. So they usually end up being quite small and boutique.
You know, it's always a concern anywhere to give a full OP license.
I imagine, yeah.
The location has never had one before, and this block that you want to open on is 100%. There's no restaurants or bars. I'm not in this actual building. There is a cafe in the lobby of the building, so there is that.
Sure.
But so
Sure.
the noise concern is serious because we have no other equivalent. So I think that's one of the things that people said a lot. You know, like how noisy will it be?
Sure. The vibe that we create with our other spaces after 5 p.m. is quiet, sort of quiet R&B music, some candles, very chill, very low key. And at that point of the day, really, given our product, it's going to be people who are sitting down. It's not going to be people that are coming to get to pregame. It's not going to be people that are coming to get drunk. It's just going to be people that are working late on their way home, maybe working on their laptop.
And you don't feel it impacts you negatively if the office building that you're based in, for example, has significantly less people in it because you're staying, again, just confirming you feel this is a neighborhood cafe.
Sure.
I'd like to take that one, Reagan. You know, it's obviously, you know, on a daily basis in the last week or so, I've challenged my own faith in what we're doing just because of the volatility of what's going on. But like I said before, I live here. I live on Spring Street, a couple hundred feet away from this. I'm here, not going anywhere. It's my dream to have a coffee company that I dreamt up of 5 years ago. Not only to have one successful one in Park Avenue South, but to have one next to my home, you know, is a dream for me. So like I said before, we're really a coffee company. We buy green coffee, we roast it. It's our specialty, it's our core expertise. It's what we do, but we have such a talented team, and we like to create a nice experience. But far and away, we're a coffee company, and that's what we are. And you can see by our Park Avenue location that's been open for almost 2 years, we've conducted exactly the same way as we're describing it now. There's been no issues, complaints. We actually kind of complain sometimes about other people, our other neighbors, to be honest. And so the coffee is really by far and away the main part of our business. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring a really unique coffee experience to Soho.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so because I have some other people with raised hands, and I'll get to them right now. But in terms of the other location that you have on Park Avenue, is that beer and wine, or is that an on-premise license for the other coffee shop?
So it's beer and wine on Park Avenue. And funny enough, before this whole quarantine started, we were actually in conversations to upgrade that to full liquor. The reasons for that are a few. Number one is they do a fair amount of catering. And as you guys know, having full liquor allows you to provide full liquor for offsite events. And number two is a lot of the coffee drinks they are looking to make that they'd like to explore and expand upon require product that does not fall under a beer and wine license umbrella. So for those two reasons, they're looking for full liquor here.
Okay, and I got a question from Dr. Shirley Smith. Go ahead, Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith? There you go. I hear you.
You hear me? Okay. You asked my question, actually, Bob. I was going to ask them if they had full liquor at the Park Avenue establishment.
Ooh, I'm sorry to beat you to that question.
No problem.
Okay, but we're two good people think alike. How about that? Smart people think alike. All right. Thank you, Shirley. Doc, Lois, you have a question? Go ahead. Lois Redcup.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. 2 questions. Number one, what are your price points for your cocktails? And then what are your price points for your coffee cocktails?
They would be priced quite similarly, actually, anywhere from about $12 to $18, if not more, depending on the license that we get.
And the next question is, can you tell me where you get your coffee beans from? Because I thought I heard it was from across the country, or where do you get your coffee beans from?
So we are a roasting company. Our roasting factory is based in Houston. One of our partners has roots there, and so we set up our roasting facility there so as not to be dealing with the emission laws of Manhattan and setting all of that up and stuff. So we roast in Houston, but our coffee itself comes from all over the world. We have a few really good relationships with producers that we rely on in Colombia, in Ethiopia.
Are they fair trade?
The fair trade is not something that we certify our coffees with because we usually do quite a lot better than that. They're essentially direct trade, equitable relationships with people that are meant to be sustainable. So we work with people in a way where we can pay them lots of money over the course of a long time and really develop their product. So they're far and above fair trade prices.
Thank you.
Yeah,
For now.
next up-
I have one
hold
more.
on. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Susan. I'll call Katie next. Go ahead, Susan.
Sorry, Katie. I just meant to ask you the hours of delivery, because Greene Street, many people live right over that, and there's no back way in, you know, not saying put it on Mercer, but you have to deliver from Greene. How are you planning, and when are you planning to do that?
Sure. The companies that we work with for our foodstuffs have windows that they operate with, and we can arrange to have it sometime late morning or midday so that it's not noisy.
So it wouldn't be before opening or after closing?
If that's what the neighborhood wants, definitely not.
Yeah, okay. That's very important to us. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Katie, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I got
Can you
you.
hear me? Okay, super. I'm going to write a book, Life in Zoom. Can you hear me? Lois, thank you for asking about the roasting place. That was on my list. I have two things. One is I noticed Park Avenue has had much earlier hours, 6 and 8 p.m. closing. So you don't have experience with people coming in at 6 and staying until 10 necessarily. So I just want to point that out, that this will be somewhat new for you in dealing with the later hours.
Sure, I absolutely agree. And in as much as this is a new neighborhood for us, I'm sure there will be some things we don't expect. We did have later hours in the first year of business on Park Avenue, and we found that the customer base wasn't really there for it. We have several bars in the neighborhood, and given our concept, we found that it just emptied out after 6 p.m. So we decided to cut it back for business reasons. That said, I do think we'll experience a lot more people in Soho just because of the nature of the neighborhood, but I think we're prepared to deal with that in a way that's very respectful to the neighborhood.
Okay. Now, I noticed on the floor plan, there are 3 areas. 2 are labeled apothecary and 1 is labeled grab and go. So how is that different from the food bar,
Sure.
where people are, the food counter where people are
Sure.
ordering?
So our concept is kind of a mix of, it's fast casual coffee shop service. So you go in, you get a to-go cup of coffee, maybe a small bite to eat, pastry in a bag. The grab and go case amplifies that. So we have things like ready to drink beverages, orange juice, ginger shots in that case, so you can just grab it and go, as well as some like chia puddings in to-go packaging, small bites that you can just grab if you don't want to wait for something to be made for you. It's all very tasteful and very delicious, and it's all made in-house. But that's something that will just kind of expedite the morning coffee run. Also, post COVID-19, we wanted to do something that allowed for people to not spend very much time in a space if they're not comfortable with that.
And the apothecary, what is that?
That's dry storage for coffee bags maybe some branded merchandise, mugs.
It says apothecary because we actually bought 2 antique apothecary units from the Ukraine. That was at a pharmacist shop. So the designer just labeled them apothecary.
Okay, I just wanted to know. And I guess I just actually did have one question, which is a follow-up on Susan. You said you got bounce backs from the list. I saw the list that you sent to, I don't know if those people would answer you because they might not feel that they could opine. But what was the status of the Soho Alliance email? Because that is an email, as Susan can attest, who would be very interested. So if you can't say it off the top of your head, if you have to look in your email and report, I think that would be of interest to this committee to what the response was from the group called the Soho Alliance.
Sure, they were certainly on the list. The board office told us to make sure they were on the list. And Jake, if you're on, I think you were running those emails. Was there a response at all from them?
And I was given confirmation that everyone on that list was contacted and no one got back to the applicant.
Right.
I mean, that would be very unlikely from Sean, to be honest, because if something comes into the Soho Alliance, one thing he does is he contacts whoever lives within the area who are members, and anything that comes in will be discussed. I mean, he lives up the street from me. He knows that's my building. So I'm just saying, repeating myself, sorry.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to dump our emails to you so you guys can confirm that we sent all the emails we said we did if our word's not good enough. But I mean, these are strange times, right?
Interested.
Yeah,
that's the one I'm most interested in because that's the one that I think is really most relevant, and I'm shocked that you didn't hear from him.
Okay.
Or he didn't generate something.
We're happy to forward all that stuff
yeah,
over to the board office.
Yeah, why don't you do that, Joseph?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Katie, are you done?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bob.
You bet. I know Donna and maybe Carter has, I'm just got a few things, house cleaning questions that I want to make sure we got straight before we move on. And just in terms of the diagram that we're given, could you just tell us where the front door is? Because it looks like there's 2 doors that lead into the premises, one down near the bathroom and one looks like in zone 1 seating area. Could you tell me which one's the front door?
The front door is the zone 1.
Okay, and that's the front door that leads from Greene Street into the premises.
Right, it's the bottom of the page. That's the entrance.
Okay, and there is no sidewalk cafe going to be at this location. There's no open doors or windows, right? Okay, and the door that exits in the rear, okay, where does that take you? And is that going to be a door that is going to be used by patrons in any manner?
No, it's not. It actually goes into the lobby, past the elevators for the commercial lobby. It's not something
that will be closed so that patrons don't go into the lobby, right?
Yep.
And on zone 5, it says a kitchen, okay, but there's nothing in the kitchen, so we don't know what is going to be there. So could you tell us, looking at your menu, I don't see a significant full menu, including a full kitchen. What is the plan for the kitchen?
So the plan for the kitchen is it's kind of split up. We have the bar up front near the entrance, and that's both an open kitchen concept plus coffee bar. So whatever is made to order hot will come from there. And the back kitchen area is storage, warewashing, and some prep, but that's really just to support what's happening in the front of the space.
Okay, so the menu that you provided us is, generally speaking, it's not like you're going to come in there and start making hamburgers, right?
No, definitely not.
You understand, a full service restaurant would have a full service kitchen, but that's not the plan. The plan would be to stay consistent with your menu.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
the menu that you have is illustrative. That's the basic idea that will be filled in with other additional items. So it will be more full than what you have, but that is a good sample menu of the types of food that they'll be serving.
Yeah, we created a great hit list of items, but it's really the starting point. We just want to show you our concept and what the most successful items have been. We always riff and we always change and we always add.
Okay, and so you folks, I mean, it's, you tell me if I'm wrong, but it does seem to me that you kind of have a brunch thing going. And so Saturday and Sundays would probably be the days that where you're going to probably do the best, at least in terms of profit. But you tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm curious about that. Is the business concept one of a brunch concept? And if so, is the menu going to change for the brunch on Saturday and Sunday?
It's not a brunch concept. That said, we're new to this neighborhood in terms of doing business, so I don't know what the Saturday crowd is going to look like. I expect it to be busy on weekends. The menu itself, though, is really meant to be holistic, all-day cafe kind of. No matter what time you stumble in, there's something for you. It's nutritious. It's very healthy. It's delicious. It's not, and I think we also don't really have the capacity to be a proper brunch place. So I think that's going to keep that at bay.
So that leads me into the one thing that we put in all of our stipulations, which is no boozy brunches, no all you can drink, all you can eat specials. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, this is not a bottomless brunch place.
Okay.
No.
Just making sure, because we've had other lawyers tell us that they weren't aware of that. So
Sure.
even though it's in our stipulations.
As I said earlier, just given the nature of our product, we spend a lot of money on our menu items, and doing anything that's bottomless or free refills or anything of that kind is really not in our wheelhouse.
Okay, and you have checked off private parties, but you did not check off anything for promoted events or outside promoters. Can you tell us what the private parties are going to be, and what if there are going to be promoted events or outside people coming in to do things? What is that? I know you spoke a little bit about that, but if you could give us more details.
Sure. An example in the past, Bliss, the beauty company, did a spring product rollout in our space last year. And that was a really curated, very pretty event. There were probably, I want to say 75 influencers that came through within the space of 3 hours. And it was just for them to showcase their new products. They had a photo booth set up. We did kind of custom drink and food creations that matched their theme. Very elegant. And of all of the events we've done, most of them really have been in that vein of product launch from kind of advertisers. Okay, and
I have to ask the question because you have a beer and wine. Why not a beer and wine? It seems to be more consistent with this location and your concept. Why not upgrade at the other location and have a beer and wine here?
Yeah, I actually said that already, Bob, that we were already in discussions to upgrade the other location before the pandemic hit. And the reason they want to do the full liquor here is twofold. Number one, they do get a fair amount of catering business that comes their way. And having the full license allows them to provide full liquor for offsite events. And also a lot of the drinks that they're conceptualizing that they do want to serve have not a high alcohol volume, but require ingredients that are not covered by beer and wine licenses.
Yeah, the only problem with that, Joseph, is that I agree. I understand the ingredients. I understand the concept. But with an on-premise, you can pretty much do whatever you want in terms of drinks. So,
I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that you asked why they wanted one here. And
no, you're right. You're right.
They were looking to upgrade the other one, and they may still when we get back to life as we know it and people can walk around and frequent these places.
Okay. And so go ahead, Donna. I'm sorry. Donna, go ahead if you have a question.
Yeah, I did. Is there wait service throughout here? Up in the mezzanine, and how do people get their drinks and their coffees and everything, or is everything taken from the pickup place and then you walk to your seating?
Yes.
Pick up at the bar.
It's order and pick up and take to your own table.
So even the cocktails at all hours, if at 9 o'clock, if people are getting cocktail, you pick it up there and then you bring it up to the mezzanine.
Imagine going to any coffee cafe place. We're just doing that in an elevated way.
Okay, and then with the kitchen again, it's not a full kitchen. So going back to Bob's question about the brunches, even though that's not what you're planning to do, it looks to me from your menu that there's not a lot of cooking on site that goes on. I mean,
that's not the case. There's quite a bit of prep that goes on.
So I mean, if we're doing omelets omelets or something like that? Is this kitchen equipped for that type of,
It is. We should
It
have
is,
an egg
okay.
sandwich on the menu that
Okay.
is essentially that.
okay,
That said, though, it's a relatively low volume kitchen, and that what we're shooting for is a stable output throughout the day, not really high volume bursts like brunch service.
okay.
Carter, I know do you have any questions? Because the people that can't raise hands, I guess it's just Donna and Carter. And if there's anyone else in the committee has a question, you could raise your hand. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now so we can see you.
I do have a question. You know, I mean, there's a lot of issues, obviously. You know, people are asking about the concept. So I noticed, Matthew, you're also a licensee on one of the most egregious violators of liquor licenses in our community, which is at your hotel, where you have an unlicensed bar on your top floor, which you promised, or you know, the original applicants had promised up and down, would not be a bar. And it was interesting to hear you talk about how you didn't want to have a loud place or, you know, have anything that's uncomfortable. And yet, you know, we have neighbors that are complaining that they can hear your premises up there from 2 blocks away, 3 blocks away. Unfortunately, our member who lives in one of those buildings isn't with us tonight. She had a family obligation, but I'm just wondering if you can sort of comment on that. I mean, that's, for us, that's a pretty significant issue. And I, you know, we were told that that would never be used and the concepts would be very particular, and they're not that now, so.
Sure. So, you know, I actually kind of don't agree with part of the premise of your statement. I think that we have been fully engaged with.
Which part of it do you not agree with?
I mean, we're fully engaged with not just only the community, but we're constantly getting feedback from people. We're constantly making adjustments. We're engaged with the NYPD. We actually have very little complaints, if you can refer back to them as well. So we've changed speakers, we've changed tactics, we've changed.
Okay, but do you disagree that your top floors was never licensed and it was never presented to us, and you signed a stipulation that said you would never ever use that floor?
Actually not. I'm not the manager of that hotel. I'm actually a part owner, part minority owner.
You're on the license and you're responsible for that.
That's true, but I don't actually manage the hotel. I'm an investor from day one. I kind of help where I can, but that's just not what I do. This is my coffee company. That's what I've been set to do the last 6-7 years. So this is the second location of that. So if there was any sort of, you know, hard feelings or hardships on that, I apologize, but it's really was not my day to day. And I say that sincerely. I'm not the manager. I'm a minority owner in that project. From what I do understand is that it was resolved recently. I was notified, but and I know for a fact that we did make a real investment on that block. I know 10 years ago when we bought the land and built the hotel and created the jobs, and kind of really was the forefront project of that block, of that West Soho neighborhood. We do engage with the community as much as possible, and I know that it was resolved recently. And like I said, again,
how was that resolved?
I don't know. All the liquor license issues, from what I understand, have been resolved in the last month.
Well, you closed the rooftop bar and you haven't come back to ask us to add it to your license. So, I mean, you resolved it by you're not operating it again, or what does that mean?
I mean, there is a license there. It is licensed.
Not on the rooftop.
Yes, it's licensed.
Then how did that happen if it didn't come to us?
Like I said, I don't know.
I mean, basically, when you guys came, you said that you're a leader in the neighborhood, but your word's not really any good because you guys signed as principals onto a stipulation form that's very clear. You presented us plans. You said we were never using that top floor, and turn around and you've got a rooftop bar. Yeah, like I said, I'm a minority investor in that project. I am a majority investor in Felix. I do run the show. I am CEO here. You have me. I've never presented before any community board on behalf of that hotel. So I'm really sorry that you have these feelings. So what have you done in the hotel to fix that problem? You're on the license. You're on the hook for that. That's your reputation right there. Sure. And we're weighing that, and that's a part of what we weigh when we have these types of applications.
Yeah, look, Carter, I appreciate that. I mean, as he said a couple times already, he's not involved in the day-to-day. To your point, it doesn't matter. He's a principal, and ultimately, like, he's going to be responsible, and I think Matt understands that, and maybe will be a little bit more proactive in finding out what's going on and how he can soothe it. But to his point, he runs Felix, and the other Felix location that's been around for about 2 years has no issues, has no complaints, is a good operator, and that's where he focuses his time. And that's really what he's opening here, is another Felix, not another hotel. If he was involved with that and he presented before you and he lied to you, that's a different story. But he said
Joe, he's on the license. What do you mean if he's involved with it? He's a principal.
I understand. He has an ownership interest, which means he's automatically a principal. He's telling you he's not involved in the day-to-day. He can't answer these questions.
I think we got it. I think we got it. So Carter, do you have anything else that you wanted to ask?
No, that's it.
Okay. And anybody else? Because I didn't see any hands raised, and I would like to move on to the next. There's a lot of people waiting to hear us our comments on the bill. So with this, I'm gonna thank you folks for coming down, and I will forward things tomorrow morning in terms of stipulations if the vote is a positive one, and I will certainly let you know what's going on. Donna, you raised your hand?
Yeah, one other question. Any live music or of any nature? It's always background music, even if there's an event, always background
Correct.
music?
Yeah, no live music, only recorded.
Okay.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, thank you guys for coming down. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe, please, okay?
Thank you so much.
You bet. Okay, so next up is going to be, give me a second here. Next up is going to be 113 Mulberry Street. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm going to go with Mollusca. Okay, is the gentleman from Mollusca? Yes, he's here. Okay. All right, so why don't you let him come forward? And I will explain to the committee. I sent an email, I forwarded an email from Mr. Bernstein. I'm sorry, not Mr. Bernstein, from Max Bookman to everybody prior to tonight's meeting. For those of you that were not at our meeting, the last meeting where this one was discussed, bear with us because we're not going to go over the entire scenario at this point, redo it, the whole thing. But the gentleman, what happened is after the meeting, the stipulation form was sent over to Mr. Bookman. There had been an agreement on pretty much most, if not all, the issues. And then Mr. Bookman indicated to me that that his client, and I'm not going to, what's your first name? I'm sorry.
You can call me Eric. Don't worry, Eric.
Eric? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just going to call you Eric. Okay, so Eric, who's going to be a principal on the license and the application, indicated that he would like to have boozy brunches, which are all you can drink, all you can eat type, not just, at a brunch, but during, the regular hours into dinner and such of that. And so Max had indicated to me that, we didn't make it clear to him at the last meeting that, this was going to be part of the stipulations, even though it's part of all of our stipulations in community board too. So in any event, Eric did not get that straight and did not understand that, and we didn't bring it up. And so he is asking to come back, seeking reconsideration on that issue. And now I'm going to let you go, Eric. Go ahead.
All right, just so you know, we're not gonna, we won't be offering that unlimited drinks for dinner. I know you just mentioned that, but
okay, yeah, no, tell us what you plan on doing, and then we'll go from there.
Well, the whole issue is that this wasn't brought up on the application, and it wasn't brought up when I had my initial phone call with Donna, Zach, and a couple other board committee leaders. And then also in the meeting last week, it also didn't come up. And, and it was just dropped in on the stipulation without any question or, anything like that. And that's the reason why I'm calling, because, we don't plan to offer much of the boozy brunch, but when we do, we like to, we would like to have like, specific day, like, on a Saturday only for a specific amount of time, or on a Sunday for a specific amount of time. We're going to be training our staff to catch any excessive drinking. We do not plan people to get, plastered where they, can't talk, throwing up on the streets. I grew up, I finished college maybe 9 years ago. And I've seen people get, really, really drunk during brunch, and it's not a good, look and all that. And that's why I'm calling, that's why I'm coming back and, pleading that, that stipulation shouldn't really be, I shouldn't really be advised to it, because the SLA allows us to have, unlimited drinking alongside with a food option.
Yeah, no, the SLA, go ahead, Don. I'll let you go, Don. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. We did not specifically, when Zach and I spoke to you on the phone, but when this application came in from Max, he said that you wanted the same stipulations as the previous person that was there. And they specifically had no boozy brunches, no unlimited drink, food, or drink specials. So that's what they signed, just to say that.
Well, we came back and we had a carefully negotiated deal, and I was ready to sign. I cut our hours by an hour. I limited our time. No music, no live music when the doors are open. All that. I gave up a lot, much more than what we wanted to give up, and and just so that we could close the deal and get into the neighborhood and operate for a time, and you guys get to know us, and we don't want to bother anybody. We don't want to cause any harm, any loudness, any annoyance. We just want to operate our restaurant, be successful and give back to the community. We don't plan to be that college drunken spot at all. We don't plan to do that, and we want to, focus on, on our restaurant and the community.
Okay, I think we got it, Eric, and I would appreciate you coming back. I'm just going to cut right to the chase. So is this a make or break stipulation? In other words, is this something that you have to have in order to make your business thrive? And is that, so that this is part of the application that we need to review?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I needed to find out. I appreciate you coming down.
Yeah, I just wanted to say another thing.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll give you an opportunity. Go ahead. I'm sorry. So Zach also has raised his hand. So yes, go ahead, and then I'll let Zach.
Well, let Zach go. Let Zach go first.
Yeah, then I'll give you an opportunity. Okay.
Yeah,
Eric?
please.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
All right. So Zach, he raised his hand. Can someone let him come forward? Okay. Zach, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but my microphone is not on. I don't.
No, it's working.
No.
Okay.
We got you. So go ahead, Zach.
Okay. Is there any video, or is that not happening?
I'll put you, I think I can I do that?
Not that I'm so beautiful.
Yeah, Zach, it's okay.
Did I do it? Okay, is he there? Does that do it or no? Okay.
You know what? It's okay. As long as we can hear him, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Okay. Should I go ahead then?
Yes, please do, Zach.
Okay. First of all, I do have to just acknowledge it is really strange to be here talking about this when so many crazy things are happening outside, and when we as a country are confronting stuff which has been festering for years, and it's sort of a moment in history. It's very hard to focus on this. Second of all, I just wanted to reiterate what Don has said. When we spoke with, when we had the conference call and spoke with Max indicated that he was familiar with the, sorry, I'm taking the headphones off because I can't hear myself.
We can also see you now.
We can see you now.
We can see you now, Zach.
Stipulations on the previous license at this location, and those stipulations did include a prohibition on unlimited drinks and boozy brunches. So we assumed that everyone was familiar with this, and of course that there was no issue surrounding that. Community Board 2 has a long-standing policy of not approving boozy brunches. There's no reason to make an exception at this location. And then finally, since we are reopening this application, I would like to once again reiterate my concerns about having live acoustic music at this space. Traditionally, CB2 has been very strong about not allowing not allowing live music of any kind at a restaurant. I see no reason for there to be making an exception at this location. It's a problematic location. It is very exposed to a large number of residences. The applicant has no New York City experience, limited experience in general. There is absolutely no reason to allow live music at this space. And I would strongly ask that you reconsider that decision at the same time that you're considering whether not to allow unlimited drinks. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Eric, before you go, is there anybody else from the public? If you would like to speak on this, please raise your hand. I don't think there is. Okay. So go ahead, Eric. I'll give you go ahead, Donna.
Donna speak.
One other thing is that we've gotten a number of letters, at least 2 other letters from other community residents that are totally against unlimited alcohol, unlimited drink and food, specials, boozy brunches, and also reiterated what Zach said about the music. They're very disappointed that we even allowed that because we never do. So.
Okay. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I hear all your claims and issues, and there's really not much more to say. We really had a very carefully negotiated deal, and I wish it was just brought up on the application, and or in any of the meetings, so then because we would have just had that conversation then. And we gave up a lot, and it's really nothing else that I could really say. I really hope that you guys really consider us for the license, and I hope that you guys take out that stipulation. We negotiate. I brought down the hour. I limited the live music and everything like that. And I really just hope that I really don't have to come back to the SLA board, the SLA, and and fight for what I'm asking for, because it was never brought up. And if I'm already going to be going to the board, I might as well just ask for my original application with the hours and everything that we took off the table, because at that point it's really, I don't see that it's fair to us. That I'm back here in the second week when I was ready to sign the deal. Was that last week?
It's 10 days ago or so. Okay.
Yeah.
Bob, I just want to say one other thing. You did agree. I just want to clarify this, just so when we have our conversation, we know that you agreed to no bottle service aside from bottles of wine products. Is that correct?
Yeah, we talked about it. That was discussed.
But the menu that you presented has bottles on the menu. So
that's Moscow.
I just wanted to get clarification on that.
That's that was. You can see it's even paid in rubles.
Yes, I did see that.
It's expensive, but it's in rubles.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming down, Eric.
Thank you.
I don't see anybody raising their hands and have any more questions. Thank you again. And,
no problem. Be safe. Everybody
yes,
be safe. Too. All right. Have a great one. Good night.
Good night now. So next up, folks, is going to be 113 Mulberry Restaurant, DBA Manero's Pizza. You want to raise your hand? Oh, here we go.
How do I leave this?
Oh, did I just do something?
I don't know. Uh-oh.
No, I didn't do.
I don't see him on the list anymore. Hold on, let's see if he's still here.
No, I think
Koresh?
Can you guys hear me?
He's here. He's here. There we go.
All right, guys.
Good. So, why don't you're here alone? There's nobody else coming?
Correct. Yeah, they're listening in. If they wanted to raise their hand, they said they would, but we're not obviously all together at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay, so go ahead. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what the application is about, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.
Sure. So thank you for hearing me and my team about Manero's Pizza. We appreciate all the work you guys are doing. I was on the call last night for about 4 hours with you guys listening in on all the work you're trying to do to help restaurants and local restaurants. And so really appreciate that and hope you guys can rush what you need to get rushed for Thursday. We have opened Manero's Pizza. We came in front of the board a few months ago, I think back in October, somewhere along those lines. There was some question of the back space that we have being able to be utilized. We've gone back and forth with the Department of Buildings, and it's just been a never-ending story. So we essentially are at this point, you know, looking to omit that back area fully, not utilizing it in any way, shape, or form for the time being. It has been left completely untouched, even though we filed our permit and did the demolition of the internal part of the restaurant. But it is maintained exactly how it was, because the DOB specifically said at some point they were going to come before all of this happened in March. That didn't happen. And a physical inspector was going to come and see that it was existing prior to us getting there. Our hope was that it would be existing but non-conforming, and then we would make it conforming. But again, all of this is the pandemic and whatnot has pushed all of that back. We're just going to leave it as is and want to continue along with the process of getting our restaurant open. A little bit about Manero's Pizza is we were trying to bring back something really authentic to this neighborhood. We use no sugar in any of our dough for pizza, which is pretty spectacular in my opinion, because I feel like everyone uses it, at least a starter for yeast. We use all natural yeast, no bleach flour. We make the mozzarella in-house. So we're trying to do all the little things right, kind of like we do at our other restaurant up the block.
And what restaurant is that?
Gelso and Grand. It's on Mulberry and Grand Street. So we do similar processes there. I do apologize. I sent you guys our existing menu, not our proposing menu, as we grow into the other side of the space, which will include baked clams, a few baked pastas, a couple additional salads, squash blossoms, an eggplant fra diavolo, eggplant parm, and some baked fish dishes. We do have like a jet engine of a pizza oven, like the highest quality one possible, completely electric and hooded with a type 1, I think it's a type 2 vent. And so we are going to be making that menu more expansive once we actually are able to accommodate seating guests, in the hope that we are able to accommodate seating guests. But our whole vision for the spot was to make a local place where people who live on Mulberry come. We have been very much well received by the entire community that we know of. People who've lived across the street for 30 years are still shocked that there isn't a single place on Mulberry Street that you can get a slice of pizza. And so we really wanted to be a community spot, community hangout, low price point. We're frequented by all the police officers and fire departments in the neighborhood. It's somewhere to grab a bite. And, you know, we want to get full liquor to be able to accommodate making a classic cocktail list for classic Italian cocktails like Americanos, Negronis, things of that nature, again, at a low price point. And hopefully have no issues whatsoever with any type of noise, because we have non-operable windows, which are already in place, and not play anything past like a recorded background music. So I think that's about it about what we're trying to achieve. Just brings back something authentic to the neighborhood where we make everything from scratch. So.
Okay, so my first question is, how do you pronounce your last name?
Bakhtiar.
Bakhtiar. Okay, yeah. Mr. Bakhtiar. So then you understand, you know, in terms of ever serving alcohol in those other areas. Say you get to the Department of Buildings and they say, oh yeah, you can use these back 2 rooms, because I saw they're not on your diagram. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you understand that if that's the case and you want to serve alcohol in other areas, assuming you get permission from Department of Buildings or whatever, in the future, after COVID is over and everything of that sort, that you need to come back to the State Liquor Authority with an alteration application. I just want to make sure you understand that. So
we do understand that. And okay. I think it was Carter who brought up the point about certain like Little Italy zoning restrictions when we were up last time. We will not use that space until we are presented in front of you first, and then provide you with either a temp certificate of occupancy that allows us to use the back, because our letter of no objection doesn't have any type of backyard area listed on it. So okay. We will not use that until we have some sort of documentation that says that it is usable space for us.
Excellent. I just want to make that clear. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, I don't see any hands.
Okay, then.
Donna, and Carter, go ahead. Donna, first Donna.
Is there any sidewalk cafe? There's no sidewalk cafe, or is there?
There is, I think, one table allowed, I think it's 2 tables of 4 seats that are allowed, and we will be applying for that next year. Obviously, because we would like to participate in the Mulberry Mall, as well as the San Gennaro Festival when that happens.
So I'm sorry, so the 2 tables and 4 seats?
Yes, that's what I believe
Okay,
it is for the left side, because the right side has operable gates for the prep area downstairs.
Okay, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Donna. So just so we're clear, we, in terms of that sidewalk cafe, in terms of serving alcohol at the sidewalk cafe, if you put that in your application now, right, then you don't have to come back for the alteration. You have to come back for the sidewalk cafe license, but not for the alteration for the service of liquor, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we're going to review that now tonight, all right? So that's why it's important that we got the 2 tables and the 4 seats, right? Is that, are we right on that one?
That was what I was told when we initially inspected, but it hasn't even, because it's only like it has two facades with the tenants who enter through the middle, and then it connects behind it. One side that takes up the entire facade with operable gates. So,
okay, so the stipulations will include the 2 tables and the 4 seats. That's all I want to make sure that you understand that. Okay, go ahead, Donna.
Okay, and then my last thing, I believe your hours are till 2 a.m., 7 days a week. Is that correct?
That's what we're looking for. We have that at our other location up the block, and we have, I think, maybe once closed close to 2 a.m. on an average night. It's just so that we have the opportunity, but this neighborhood is anyone. I live above our other restaurant. This is Gelso right now. I live 2 floors up, which is why I'm not quarantining, but we have never had a need to really extend past.
Okay.
Well,
Cha-Cha's, which was the place before, did have 2 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just let everybody know that. Okay. I think that's it. Nobody else? Carter. Sorry, Carter.
So one of the things is we've received complaints about your other establishment at, over on Carmine Street, that you've installed outdoor speakers there in your rear yard, and that you're having patrons sitting outside and eating and drinking in the sidewalk cafe, or in the rear area that's within your property line. And I'm just wondering if you had any.
Yeah, we spoke actually to the police officers who are in the neighborhood. They come as well. We never installed any speakers outside. We had our door open, and we have a speaker near the door. Since that conversation, we have shut that off, and we will not be turning it back on. We assume that having the door open and the windows open and whatnot, we were following within our stipulations with you guys, which is we can't have anything open or any diners outside past 10 o'clock. As far as people dining out there, it has been no patrons other than people who work for us, who have been sitting out there eating family meal or whatnot. But there has been no actual service provided to guests coming in and purchasing product and sitting down on those tables.
Okay, thanks.
And just so we all know, where are we talking about on Carmine Street?
On 63 Carmine Street for Ja. It goes straight through the building all the way to the back. We have a patio area, and we set up a takeout window essentially on both sides so that patrons can come and order takeout and pick up their delivery from either side, just to try to maximize.
Now I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then in terms of the sidewalk cafe, closing is 11 p.m. on the stipulations.
That's fine.
Okay, for the 2 tables and 4 chairs?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, anybody else have any questions? I don't see, oh, there's a question. Go ahead, Katie.
How did she?
Katie?
Okay, here I am.
There you go.
So it's the Ja Plantas that you own, that you run at 63.
Correct.
The old Brian Dennehy's, right? It has
yes.
The outdoor space there is very complicated, right? Because there's sort of 2 designations. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, it has a little area that is a part of the property within the property line that isn't subject to a sidewalk cafe, and then it does have a sidewalk cafe area, which we not submit our application. Our architect is putting together plans to maybe hopefully get it in this year, and then we'd obviously come to you first before doing anything on that side. So
yeah, those are on the Seventh Avenue south side of the property. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for for clarifying. You said it so quickly, but then when you gave the address, it was easier. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we're done here. Thank you so much for coming down and for being with us last night as well. And be safe. And we will be back in touch with you tomorrow and let you know, our decision and the stipulations. Okay.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. And again, we appreciate all the support from for what all you guys are doing for us.
Of course. Of course. Thanks so much.
Thank
Okay?
you guys.
All right. So I know there are a lot of people waiting on Senate Bill S8392, and I apologize that this is taking a bit of time. I have one more application, then I'm going to get to everybody. So the next application is going to be Takeshi Sushi, 28 Grand Street. If you are, yep, here we go. We got a raised hand. You can bring him forward. And two people, Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Jung.
Wait, hang on. And Mr. Gonzalez. Okay, I still might need to, let's see. Unmute.
Okay. Are you guys on board? Can you hear?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
I gotcha. And Mr. Gonzalez?
He has to try to unmute himself. I'm not able to unmute him.
There we go.
Oh, wait,
You almost had it. Try it again.
I'm not going to do it.
There we go.
There.
There you go. Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right. Well, you can see me?
No, we can't see you.
I don't know why.
Well, up on your right top screen, it should say start video or stop video. You see that? Next, there's a mute button.
I just clicked on it. All right.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I'm new at this.
That's how it works. That's it. That's how it works. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good. All right.
You.
So we have an application here. This is for an upgrade from a restaurant wine to on-premise at 28 Grand Street. Go ahead, Mr. Gonzalez. Why don't you introduce the client and tell us about the upgrade?
Well, good evening, everyone, by the way, and I'm glad you guys are all doing safe out there. And by the way, you guys are doing a great job yesterday. I was at the meeting yesterday. It was very good. Very informative.
Thank you. Thank you for attending.
Mr. Young currently has the restaurant wine license, and he's basically seeking to upgrade it to a full liquor license. And he's going to also increase it by a few seats. Not that's going to make a big difference now because of the social distancing. But I think, Mr. Young, I think you should be able to tell them more about it, please.
So my name is Kyo Young. I started Takeshi Sushi about a year and a half ago, and we got our restaurant wine license last July. And for the past year or so, we've been doing pretty well with the community. We got very good customer feedback in terms of our service and our concept. So for those of you who are not familiar with Takeshi Sushi, which basically is a Japanese omakase restaurant, which basically is a sort of a personalized chef's experience that's based on mostly on Japanese cuisine. We work with vendors from both in Japan as well as local ingredients that are, from nearby fish market and all that kind of stuff. So our menu changes daily, and we are looking to expand to the OP license, mostly because that a lot of the Japanese alcohol is actually used the distilling method rather than using the sake producing method. So even though they are low ABV, they are not legal for us to purchase under the restaurant wine license. So that sort of take away a large portion of what we can offer. And a lot of customers also been asking about, Japanese whiskey, Japanese gin, and a lot of other sort of harder liquor as well. So on my background is basically the restaurant interior. You're basically gonna be sitting right onto the sushi bar. The chef will be right in front of you, explaining to you every single item that you'll be eating, and you will be we customize the menu based on allergies, based on preferences, and everything that it's whatever information that the customer is comfortable sharing with us. And we want to basically bring forth more of that personalized experience in hopefully after when COVID is slowly to settle down. So if there's any question, I'm happy to, let you guys know.
Okay. And so your virtual background is your location?
Correct.
Excellent. Very well done. I got to say that's a, Teddy, you can learn from your client there.
Yeah, yeah, trust me.
That's pretty good. I guess I don't see a drink menu in your application. Maybe that's because I'm just looking at the questionnaire, but
yeah, I did send one in.
Yeah, I'm not saying you didn't,
Okay.
Mr. Gonzalez. I just don't have it right in front of me. So, Ms. Young, explain to us what type of drinks you're going to need, at the sushi location, at least in terms of upgrade versus the wine and the beer that you currently, and I'm sure sake.
Right. So under the restaurant wine license, we can serve the Japanese whiskey, Japanese wine and beer, and also sake. But there's a whole range of culinary drinks that we are not allowed to purchase. For example, shoju, which is a similar to Korean soju, but it's basically made with Japanese rice. But because the method of producing that is distilled, that we're not allowed to purchase. There's a lot of dessert sake that are not allowed to purchase, even though the ABV is about 5%. Mostly because like the ingredient that they use is distilled from whiskey. And there's more common hard liquor such as the Japanese whiskey, Suntory, which almost everyone knows. There's Yamasaki single malt whiskey, that a lot of things that can elevate the experience. And because of these hard liquors are not available to us, we have to customize our menu to a specific type of fish and specific type of proteins and vegetables, that we're sort of limiting our creativity in the surface. And a lot of customers actually notice that, because they realize that we're not allowed to serve stronger flavor alcohol that translates into a certain kind of culinary experience being blocked off from us. So in the cocktail menu that we have submitted to you guys, that's actually a standard menu that we created a long time ago, that about a bunch of cocktails that we wanted to serve. And each of those include both hot liquor as well as some sake mixed into it. We work with a mixologist that worked in the city for many years to create this menu, and we would like to bring that menu into the culinary experience. So that's what we're looking for here.
Mr. Young, are you a shortstop?
Sorry?
Are you a shortstop?
I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, shortstop is the guy who picks the ball up, the ground ball, and he throws it to first and gets the guy out. That's exactly what you just did.
Okay.
It was a very easy ground ball question, and you nailed it. Or you can call that a home run. Let's put it that way. All right. So you know what a home run is, right?
I do know what a home run is.
Okay. So now you get what I'm saying. Okay. It took me a while to get there. I apologize. But okay. So there's no outdoor. Just some house cleaning questions. There's no outdoor area here. There's no sidewalk cafe here. You don't have any open doors or windows. You don't have any plans that create these open facades on your sushi restaurant, right?
Correct, for all of them.
Okay. And your hours of operation are going to stay consistent. You're not changing them.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And you might add a few more chairs, but you got a small place already.
Correct. We will add a couple of movable chairs. They will mostly be floating, mostly for waiting purposes. The main sushi bar, which is right behind me, it will stay the way as is. We might refinish it, for maintenance purpose, but we will not do anything dramatic to change it.
Okay, and you're going to be the guy on the license, right?
Correct.
Okay, and are you the guy that's there on a daily basis?
Yes, I am there almost every single day.
Okay, all right. And anybody have any questions? You raise your hand now. Donna, go ahead. If anybody else has a question, raise your hand.
So the diagram that I see right now, you have 11 seats is that right, at the sushi counter?
Correct.
Right, so that's your main dining area.
That's correct.
So it looks like you're adding 12 seats for the waiting area, is what's on the diagram.
That's correct. If we are hoping to have people that be able to wait and sort of have a cocktail or two before they get seated. It does sort of go to Japanese culture where most Japanese restaurants in Japan actually have a waiting area where you kind of arrive half an hour early to sort of understand and sort of prepare your palate to sort of experience the culinary experience. So we sort of want to have that anticipation also come into the space. Whereas, it is correct that our space is fairly small.
Yeah.
We do want to give the customer that sort of experience.
So then my question would be, because before all your service was done right from your bar there, when people were eating, so will you have a wait staff now, or how will the waiting people get their cocktail?
We do have a wait staff currently, so even though there is the chef right in front of you, we still need a wait staff to sort of monitoring all the customer, make sure that they don't, whatever they need, the chef cannot really cross across the bar. So, we do have a wait staff full time at all services to make sure that everyone is, under control and, the service is, in peak.
So the wait staff, I guess, now will come out and take orders for drinks for people who are waiting when they check them in.
Correct. Yeah, sorry for interrupting. So there is, so in the chef area, you will have the sushi chef right in front of you, servicing the sushi portion of the menu. We have one back server, which will be running the background and making cocktails and receiving any orders that will be coming in. And we have one front server, which will be, catering the customer experience, chatting with the customer. And when the cocktail is ready, it will be coming out from the service counter, which is on the bottom left side of the diagram, or from the door on the side. That's when that interaction of between the two server comes in and sort of pass the cocktail to the people in the sushi bar and beyond.
Thank you.
Okay, and I got, sorry about that. We got another question from Lois. I'm sorry, Katie. Go ahead, Katie Bordenero.
Thank you, Bob. What are the price points on the proposed cocktails, please?
The price point will be between $16 to $22, I believe. Most of the cocktails are not really going to be fluctuating price that much. The only thing that might change the pricing will be seasonal ingredients, or if we have to import a certain ingredient from Japan. And, given, like, for example, given the COVID situation right now, some of the Japanese fish and ingredients are more expensive to import, and that will be the only thing that will fluctuate the price.
Thank you.
Lois, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay. You had mentioned that you need a full on-premise license because you want to serve some whiskey type cocktails for certain protein or entrees. Did I get that correct?
Correct.
So could you give an example or examples of what you mean, of what kind of entree or fish that you necessarily need to serve this kind of cocktail?
Great. So there's a lot of Japanese proteins that we currently do not serve on our menu, such as venison or Japanese A5 Wagyu beef that is not on our main menu, mostly because that sake doesn't really go well with red meats, and we need to work with whatever we have in terms of our alcohol and our fish menu that's available in order to bring the customer an experience, because there's something that just simply does not taste very good with each other. So it's sort of limiting our protein selections. There's also the idea of having a contrast of the alcohol drinks, right? Because if you drink sake for half an hour straight, even though it's in very small doses, you will basically numb your palate and not be able to taste anything afterward. You will want to contrast in your alcohol pairing in between to sort of waken up your palate and sort of make sure that you can taste the contrast, which makes it a more appetizing culinary experience to me.
Thank you. The second question is, are you having a sushi chef experience, or it doesn't have to be sushi, but a chef experience where it would be a specific price, a price point for the experience?
Yes, we do. So our head chef will be Mr. John Daly from Sushi Co., who owns his own sushi place about 5 years ago in the Lower East Side. And he's been on board on, making sure everything is running smoothly even during COVID. We make sure that, that we will be able to cater the price point that the community, the market, obviously the market has to be able to, approve us on that. But we will basically try to work as much with the community as possible.
So what is the fixed price for this sushi experience? The sushi experience.
So we are currently contemplating between 100 to 150, depending on how many courses are we talking about. Lunch menu, it will be slightly cheaper because it really depends on what is available in the market. More expensive fish will require a higher price point, and more preparation obviously require more price point as well. But generally speaking, we want to make sure that it's within that range that I just mentioned, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do you have walk-ins, or is it necessary for a reservation only?
For lunch, we will be open for walk-ins and reservation. And for dinner time, it really depends on how many reservations coming in. We do, for the past year or so, we do accept walk-in as long as the staff and the chef is comfortable to make sure that the environment is controlled and not doing too crazy within a restaurant.
And how in advance do you have to give your reservation?
If you make it the same day, we generally do have some reservations open. So it's really depending on the season. If there's some customer that will book 3 to 6 months ahead. There's some customer that will book right at that morning.
Thank you very much. Good answers.
Yeah, I think Lois wants to go have some sushi at your place.
Yeah, you know me.
All right, so I do want to move on. I think we're done. Just to make sure, if there's anyone from the community that wants to speak on this item, raise your hand now. But I think we need to move on. We have a lot of people that are here that want to hear about this, that want to speak about the Senate bill. Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Young, thank you so much for coming down.
Robert, I just want to mention one thing. On the paperwork that I submitted to you, I put there's no CO, but there is a letter of no objection on file.
Okay, all right.
Just to let you know.
And you're familiar with our stipulations, the no boozy brunches. You've already heard that many times tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys, for coming down, and good luck. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Donna.
The bottle service, no bottle service. I mean, I know there's no boozy brunches, but nobody's getting a bottle of whiskey, or it's all the cocktails.
No, the bottles, there's no bottles available for the liquors. Yes.
Okay. But we allow wine and sake bottles and beer bottles, okay?
Exactly.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, Mr. Young. Okay. All right. So, everybody, we're going to move on to what everybody's interested in, which is the Senate bill being proposed by our Senator Brad Holman. And I think since everybody's been waiting so long tonight, and I appreciate everybody waiting, I think I'm just going to, I don't know if I need to go. The bill's already been out there. People know about it. I'm just going to let people speak. I think that's not a bad way to go, and the most efficient way to deal with this. If anybody has an objection from the committee to do it that way, you could raise your hand and let me know. But otherwise, that's my plan right now. Okay, so if folks in the audience who want to speak on the Senate bill could raise their hand, and we'll call on everybody. Each one will give people time. We will limit it to 2 minutes, and please don't repeat, if you can, what the person ahead of you already said. We're pretty sophisticated. We've seen the bill. We know what is about. We've gotten a lot of emails. We have a general idea of where the opposition to the bill is and where people are agreeable to it. So raise your hand and we'll bring you forward and we'll let you speak. And Donna will move you forward. Okay, so first up is going to be Miss Lawrence. Oh, maybe not.
I think I just did.
There you go. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Donna. Yeah, bear with us. Yeah, people are raising their hand. That's what I'm seeing, and we just have to bring them
I
forward.
thought I put Marna. Okay. So, Miss Clark. I don't know, it's not.
Okay, so Miss Clark, can you hear me? Oh, now we lost her.
No, she should. All right, Marna is here, Miss Lawrence. So do that.
Why don't you raise your hand again, Miss Lawrence and Miss Clark?
Okay, so I think Carter's going to host.
Okay, Carter, you there?
Or not.
No. I think. How about you, Valerie? You there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you?
You want to move someone over? Yeah.
I think
Can you
Marna.
help us? Oh, there we go. There we go.
Marna's there and can talk.
Okay, so folks, start raising your hand so we know that you want to speak, and we'll start with Miss Lawrence. Go ahead, Miss Lawrence.
Actually, maybe it's because I've been too involved with other things that I really don't understand the purpose and value of this bill, of extending it to 2 years beyond when we don't know what's going to exist after, things might be opened up way before that. So I don't understand what the value is in giving the restaurants the right to sell and compete with liquor stores, which have very specific and strict regulations pertaining to their own liquor licenses for good reason. I mean, I sent a little over part of it, but I think it's an absurd idea to extend the selling of liquor by restaurants. I mean, I don't really have much to say except for that it sounds like there's a reason, why we have the strict laws and regulations. And I think it's a very cynical idea. It doesn't really have any public interest that I can understand. I really mean asking these questions. I haven't heard enough to tell me or read anything that tells me why. Because in our community, we already have an enormous problem with young people and maybe some older coming in from the other outer boroughs and New Jersey, bar hopping here and there and everywhere. And why add to that it's already very, very unsafe and very unhealthy. I can go into descriptive things like, vomit on the street, but that's what we're living with in the Nolita, Little Italy area. And I'm pretty sure the Lower East Side and to some extent the Soho. So I don't understand the purpose. And if someone could explain that to me, that would be great. I just don't understand it.
Well, the purpose is if you're done, the purpose is to help business owners that operate restaurants in light of COVID.
Yeah, but that's 2 years from now he's extending. That's what I don't understand. Right now, I understand it. I understood why they said that restaurants and takeout and delivery could add, liquor to that takeout and delivery. I got it. I got that and I still do. But when we start to open up for 2 years, why do an extension now? Why don't we see what's happening? I mean, it seems ridiculous to me. I mean, honestly.
Well, it has review process in it every 6 months or so that they're going to review it. But I think what you're saying, Ms. Lawrence, is it's a little premature.
Yes. I think it's very premature, and I don't trust why, because I don't really hear why he's saying 2 years.
I got it.
Even the governor doesn't say anything, in more than a few weeks. That's like, doesn't make any sense.
We got it.
Okay, good.
And we
Thank
got
you.
your submission as well. So I appreciate you writing in as well. Okay?
Sorry for that, some of the vulgarity, but
No, but so there's multiple parts to the bill, Ms. Lawrence, and
Yeah.
so you're essentially against all the parts of it, or is there any parts that you?
well, I guess I didn't even know where to find that bill. I didn't see it in its entirety. I know what I saw as a context that provided by the community board, but no, whatever the link was, that's what I saw. So I don't understand the purpose of it. I mean, the links brought me to the bill as far as community board is provided, and I don't know if there's anything more than that. Again, I understand, you know, why at this time that would be something that would be really good for restaurants for these last few months and for the next couple of months until we find out what's going on. But to extend it beyond that makes me, I'll be honest, it makes me suspicious to the intention, because there's reasons literally be in competition. I have a problem with that, in competition with regular old liquor stores. And why should we have that? And especially for a community like mine, neighborhood like mine, but anywhere. You know, restaurants, we weren't even in New York State. You couldn't take a half bottle of wine that was left over outside onto the sidewalk. All of a sudden, we're going to say, "Oh, here, have you know, you can take liquor. You can, we'll deliver it to you." It's absolutely absurd to me. But you know, I think other people feel it. I'm going to shut up now because you got the point.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Lawrence, and we
Thank
definitely got the point. No question about it. I'm going to let Ms. Clark go next. Go ahead, Ms. Clark. Oh, you got Ms. Clark. If you can hear me, you got to unmute yourself. There
Okay.
you go.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for telling me that. Yeah, I'm Leslie Clark. I'm on West 4th Street. I'm with West Village Residents Association. I'm against this bill, period, in all of its features, because this is not enforceable. And I say that this is not enforceable because it's not being enforced now. I cannot imagine why we want to continue a practice that is not only extraordinary, but is not being enforced now. I am sure that everyone listening to me, everyone on this committee has experienced what's gone on since they have had open carry, which is they do not have food with it. They do hang out. People are hanging out without masks. They're hanging out in groups. The fact is, it is simply not only is it a public nuisance to those of us who are residents, but frankly, this is a vector for the COVID virus. You have got people walking around with drinks. Actually, I wish they were walking around. They're hanging out with drinks, unprotected, no social distancing. And frankly, I don't see how that's going to improve when we go through the phases of releasing lockdown through phases. I am opposed to this utterly and completely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Next up is going to be, well, I have Dr. Shirley Smith raise her hand, but do you have a question, Shirley?
I have a
You got to turn your mute got turned back on by mistake. Now I can hear the TV.
No, I think it's the people outside. Can we do the?
Okay. Dr. Smith, we can't hear you. Okay, I'm going to get back to you. All right.
No, let me. Can you hear me now? Okay.
I got you.
Well, I don't know the lady's name who just spoke, but when Brad sent around inquiring about our comments, I did say that I did not think it should. I think it should be sunset, and I wasn't. I have some concerns about who's going to be getting the liquor once you get it in the house. But I wanted to share what happened to me personally this past Saturday, the very first day that this was done. The restaurant on Bleecker and LaGuardia has on the Bleecker side, you can purchase your drink. And on the LaGuardia side, you pick it up. Well, I was coming from getting my prescription at CVS. I could not even pass on the sidewalk. And the people were drinking and standing and talking for days. And what's very interesting also is that what they're doing is making LaGuardia now a Bleecker Street. And then, of course, I don't think they should have the drinks on at all, but you pick up your drinks on LaGuardia, and that's where everybody stands. But they were standing after they also, placed their order as well. You could not pass on the sidewalks. What if people were in wheelchairs, people with baby carriages? And of course, me, I didn't want to, I did say, excuse me, but they really didn't move that quickly. So I'm really opposed to this law.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Smith.
You're
I'll
welcome.
go with, all right, next up, it's going to be Zach Weinstein. Weinstein, Zach?
Hang on, let me get him.
Okay. And then Laura Tenenbaum, too.
Hi.
There we go. Hey, Zach.
Yeah, I get my concern. I guess mirrors what Leslie Clark and Dr. Smith said. It's one thing to sell alcohol for a takeout and delivery, but what this is seemingly morphed into, was my experience walking around on Saturday, is basically completely throwing out of the open carry law, so that people are simply buying their alcohol and going around sitting on neighboring stoops and drinking it. This becomes like a standard practice for the next 2 years. I can see it being a serious problem as a temporary measure, you know, to try and help restaurants stay on their feet until the immediate impacts of the COVID virus, you know, fade away a bit. I could understand that, but it's not clear to me that that open carry and the way in which open carry is being used and abused has really been addressed here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Zach, can I ask Zach one question?
Of course.
Do you have any opinion? Zach, can you hear me? Do you have any opinion about the delivery? They had a delivery aspect of this as well.
Sorry about the system. I think if it were working purely for delivery, if it was for at-home consumption, yeah, I'd be a lot less concerned about it. But that doesn't seem to be. That doesn't seem to be the primary way that it's being used just now.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Tenenbaum.
Okay.
Hi. I too have some problems with this, and I hate to disagree with Brad, but I think for the same reasons that have already been expressed. Despite the vehement comments by a community board member yesterday that enforcement works with these with restaurants and bars, no, we all know it doesn't. You guys have sat for a long time on SLA meeting committees. I've did, and I still visit them a lot. Enforcement does not work. And this is really, really dangerous. We already, as Shirley even said, we're seeing people gathering carelessly, and liquor makes people more careless. Although it says open carry laws about drinking still would be in existence, if you put it in a bag, you're okay. So we're already seeing 19 Cleveland, Nishnush, serving people liquor across the street in the park. They give them little tables, they sit down, and they're drinking. This is not going to work. As Zach said, maybe at-home delivery could be there, but this is in competition with other businesses, other retail businesses that already are licensed to serve off-premises, to sell off-premises, who will be struggling. And I don't know whether, from an economic perspective, that's a good idea either. So basically, that's all I have to say. Definitely not at night. It would be awful if there weren't a cutoff time for this on every day. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so as it stands now, the hours of operation for purposes of to-go sales would be consistent with the method of operation of the business. So if the method of operation for the business allowed 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 2 a.m., you would be able to do that. But we get the point about limiting the hours. If the hours were limited to a certain time of day, would that make a difference? I mean,
Probably not enough. I just think it's a bad idea to serve alcohol to people who can easily drink it on the street, to make it much more accessible. Because you can buy, it just has to be a closed container. It doesn't have to be a sealed container. So you can fill a Coca-Cola, you know, one of those plastic Coca-Cola things with liquor, can't you? The way it is, and just put a lid on it and it's closed. It doesn't have to be sealed.
No. In New York, there's an open container law in New York State, okay, or in New York City, and that would be the enforcement. So you're not, even though people put a beer in a bag and then drink out of it, that's not legal, okay?
Actually, so let me explain that this week, someone brought attention to a police officer of someone drinking a liquor out of a bag, and the police officer said, "That's okay."
Well,
that's where government fails us.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the bottom line is the police officer is the one who's interpreting the law, and he doesn't really know what the law is, because this has not been a law that's been enforced in the past. No, I appreciate it. I see there are a lot of other people in our meeting that have not raised a hand, and I just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance. So please raise your hand. I see Miss Bai, Miss Quinn, Miss Lutz, Miss Paisley, Miss Coate. If you guys do want to speak, because I see that you have called in, please raise your hand, okay? And we'll get to you. And if you can't figure out how to raise your hand, try to get somebody to help you. So go ahead. I see. Now I lost. I guess somebody got moved forward. Huh?
Yeah.
Who was that got moved forward?
Miss Bai.
Miss Bai. Okay, so Miss Bai, you need to indicate, unmute yourself, and then I'll let you. Yeah, go ahead.
So I talked to a police officer of the 6th Precinct last Saturday because Due West had a huge crowd. And again, people unmasked, you know, drinking, there was music, it was a pandemic party. I talked to an officer and he said, well, there's nothing, you know, first of all, they don't really have the manpower for this. And they said that there's nothing they can do. They can't find anybody. They can't, you know, find the customers. They can't find the restaurants. It's not enforceable. I think and the thing that really scares me is that, as we know in the past, many times, you know, you give a restaurant or a bar, you know, another privilege, and they don't want to take it back. So I think this 2-year, if it goes, it could go on forever, and it will just turn all our streets into bourbon streets. So I have no faith in the SLA being able to control this. Again, they don't have the manpower, and I've seen, and I know a lot of you have seen, you know, at SLA full board meetings, that they disregard what community boards, you know, suggest. And they disregard their own rules because, you know, I was very tied up with what happened at Fedora. And they had a speakeasy in the basement, the sub-basement, for 10 years. And yet the SLA went ahead and gave them their alteration. I don't think it'll ever happen because there's a lot of issues with that building now that it's out of fire code. But anyway, the SLA disregarded their own, their own rules. So they won't even follow their own rules. And that also means that community boards and residents are gonna have to police this ourselves. And, you know, I really don't want that as a second job because, you know, we're surrounded at West 4th and West 10th Street with a lot of establishments that, like I said, like Fedora and also Due West, you know, they're not going to follow these rules because it's against their interest. I mean, of course, they're going to do whatever they can because, of course, they're in need of money. So I don't think this is a very short-sighted and misguided and foolish policy that's going to really destroy quality of life for so many people because we have so many neighborhoods that are already overly saturated with liquor licenses. And a lot of restaurants have closed anyway. So I don't know if this is the solution. And so I'm very much against it. It's a can of worms and it's going to be, it needs to be put away forever.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Now, we did get a chat message from, let's see here.
It's Paisley.
Yeah, and she doesn't have video, so she's.
I got her. Hang on.
You got her? Great.
I think so. Just give me 1 second now to.
And I have a Catherine Quinn would like to speak too.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for reconnecting me. I did not have a decent connection before. Hold on just a second. Okay, eliminate the echo. I can be very short. I am not only opposed to the 2-year extension, I'm totally opposed to this whole policy that I don't know if it's unintended consequences, but in practice, in the real world out here, what we have is this committee and the Quality of Life Committee has been working very hard for a very long time to make sure that outdoor cafes are properly licensed, keep orders, sweep up after themselves, and generally behave themselves. This has turned every street in the village into an unlicensed floating outdoor cafe with folks with drinks in their hands and having happy hour on the sidewalk. And the restaurants are in fact promoting this. They put out chairs, some of them even put out tables. As Cormac has said before, there is no enforcement. There isn't going to be any enforcement. And this is just so destructive of the quality of life in our neighborhood that it should not be permitted at all. And I'm sorry I ever voted for Brad Hoylman if this is the kind of thing he's going to propose. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I have Miss Quinn. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm going to be very brief. I, of course, agree with all of the previous speakers, but my real point is there is a real problem, I believe, with the economic problems of our beloved local restaurants. And the real problem with this is it doesn't address that. It doesn't actually help them. And it is very deleterious for our neighborhood life. And that's, if this bill were in any way useful, I would alter my opinion slightly, but it isn't. It doesn't address the real underlying problem, which is that the leases that restaurants have signed were based on a different economic revenue basis, and it's not there. That has to be addressed. And having people, you know, an open carry law where there is no place for people to go to the bathroom is not a solution for that problem. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I don't see any other community members who would like to speak. I understand. I know, Susan. I got community board members, but community members, and I just want to make sure that while I call on other members of our community board members, that if anybody else wants to speak, either send us a chat message or raise your hand. Okay. So go ahead, Susan Kent.
Okay. Thank you. I certainly want to hear from the community first. And I'm listening to this and I agree with the potential problems here. But I'd like to address this from the perspective of assuming that there is some form of legislation that passes. What can we do to mitigate damages? Because if all we do is say, we don't want it, and it passes, then we've lost an opportunity to sculpt this to be a little less damaging. We want these restaurants to function as restaurants, not as bars. And one of the key things is for, you know, to the extent possible that alcohol is an accompaniment to food. Now, one of the problems I had with this was the vagueness of the idea of the sale of food. I think there can be a formula of some sort that would make the simple purchase of alcohol less attractive for people who simply want to drink. For example, if the alcohol cannot be more than 50% of the total bill, so that you can't just buy a lot of drinks and an appetizer and then sit there. You've got to buy food if you want to have the alcohol. And another possibility would be there's got to be a cap. If you buy an entree, you shouldn't be allowed to buy more than 2 drinks, say. Or you have to buy at least 2 appetizers to buy those same 2 drinks. We want to create some sort of a limit so that the people who are buying it are actually also going to be buying the food that these restaurants are supposedly in business to sell. One of the problems is that they're just out there drinking. Another thing would be that we not allow, in terms of time, there should be a cutoff of sales, say at least an hour before closing, so that it is at least theoretically possible for an operator to supervise what's going on outside. If you can sell until closing time, then you're going to have people congregating when you're closed already. So there should be some point, at least we could say that there's some sort of supervision. As to the idea of open carry doesn't change. It's my understanding that this exists so that people can pick it up and then transport their food and their alcohol to a location such as their home where it is legal to consume it. That has to be made a lot clearer. But I think there are ways to build into this a way to dissuade, if people want large quantities of alcohol, then they should go to a liquor store. If people want a mixed drink, a cocktail to go with their food, that's when they would buy it at a restaurant. And that's how we pair it with the sale of significant amounts of food so that we can maybe reduce some of these problems that we're hearing about. That's it.
Yeah, those are good points. They're really good points. And 50% of the total bill weighs, and right now in the SLA, basically, the requirement of food is basically potato chips or peanuts. That's what makes it. So someone could buy a bunch of cocktails and some peanuts, and that would satisfy the law currently.
But we're talking about a whole other law. So if a cocktail is, say, $15, which is a typical amount, you've got to have at least $15 of food on your bill. So, you're automatically controlling the amount of alcohol being purchased. And it's going to be purchased in conjunction with the food that helps minimize the alcohol, the bad behavior, because it's being consumed with the food. It's not perfect,
who's going to control the bad behavior? So it's like, that's the hard part, is that some people will follow the law and others will not. And then the question becomes is which one, will there be enforcement of those rules? Because then now you're making sense.
Totally agree. I'm offering this under the assumption that if legislation is passed, what can we put into it to make it as beneficial to the restaurants as possible? And at the same time, we're dissuading, to the extent possible, the sale of large amounts of alcohol. I mean, I'm working with the assumption there will be a bill, that we're not going to be able to stop this. So let's look at that from that perspective.
Yeah, and I want to get to other people, but what about, because Susan's making some great points here. So can't you do everything that you say you're talking about here with a delivery system where you're actually delivering to the home, which is what you're ultimately saying in the takeout part of it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, a delivery would be best because there would be no open containers on the street to begin with. But if, say, somebody is picking it up and then transporting it to their home, then you know, they're picking it up on the way home from work, then that's what I envision this would allow them to do. Instead of having to order it and wait for it, they could order it, pick it up, and continue the process going to their final destination.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Susan. Mar, go ahead.
Yeah, I just put into the chat a list of suggestions because I agree with Susan that this is probably going to happen anyway. I personally don't think it should happen. I did see the line on Bleecker and LaGuardia that Shirley was talking about on Saturday. It was bananas. Also, I went to Rite Aid the other day and Hudson Street was a zoo. I mean, it was a zoo of shirtless frat boys, no masks. Every restaurant had done everything possible to accommodate the drinking outside their establishments, including creating seating beyond their legal patios, which they aren't supposed to be using anyway, having parties, audible music. It was a zoo. When I walked into Rite Aid, there were 2 cops on the corner. And I said, hey guys, you know, this isn't okay, in a much nicer way. And by the time I came out, I got one thing in Rite Aid. They had swept all of Hudson Street between Perry and Charles. There was not a person left. So that was amazing. Went to Brooklyn Fair, came back up Hudson because I promised my neighbor I'd pick up some Lysol for her. And I said to the cops on the corner of 10th and in front of Starbucks on 10th and Hudson, because there were about 30 people in front of Cowgirl with drinks, donkeys on the straws, margarita. It was like margarita party. And I said, same thing. Hey guys, you know, open containers, bunch of people are drinking, they're blocking the sidewalk. And the cop was like, so? And I was like, okay. Has the law changed? And he goes, no. And I said, so you're not going to enforce it? And he goes, no. And I said, were you told not to enforce it? And he said, no. And I said, so you've just chosen not to enforce it? And he goes, yeah, that's what I chose. Have a nice day. So this is what we're dealing with. Beyond that, the list, did you read the list?
I did. I took a quick look at it. And I see the limitations. You put in the $10 minimum, $10 you got to spend. Yeah.
So,
I guess my question to you, Mar, though, is, you know, it's going to be different when the restaurants and bars are going to be allowed to open, even on the outside. You know, stage 1, stage 2. When it ultimately becomes stage 3, and they figure out how to get people inside and have outdoor, you know, that is going to a certain extent, resolve the flow of people drinking on the streets all over the place. But you know, and maybe the police officer could say, well, you know, it's only because of COVID, I'm not enforcing it. But I will say this, you know, I've represented people who were smoking pot in Central Park, and I've represented people who were drinking on their stoop and got a ticket. And that used to be enforced by the police department. Former mayors used to do that, and now it's not being enforced. And so, you know,
I think it should be.
That does play a role. I mean, what do you say about that? I mean,
I say that people shouldn't smoke pot. It's drugs, but that's my opinion, right?
Yeah.
That's no longer the law. So, you know, I don't have any say in that. But this is still the law. This is still the law. Right.
And so it comes down to enforcement of the law. Right?
It does. Yes, it does. And that is why we have a police force, you know. That is why they're there. This is part of their job. If we can create stipulations for this law, this bill, that will make it better for the community, right? For the whole community, the operators as well, right? They have to have signs. They should also have accountability. You know, they should not be able to sell pitchers of margaritas for people to go into a park and have a party. And it shouldn't be for 2 years. It should be for 1 year. And there should be clear, the 3 strikes that I put, a fine if you allow people to sit in front of your space on a bench or a stool you've just made available, there should be fines. There should be enforcement of that. And if you do it more than 3 times, you lose the privilege to sell, deliver, and take out.
Yeah,
I mean,
one thing that the state liquor authority has kind of told us over and over again is they only have like 2 or 3 enforcement people, in our area, and maybe that includes Long Island. It's crazy. There's so few enforcement people. I mean, they do a good job and they work hard, but
right, but they just have to check. I mean, they just have to check. I mean, even Malaparte across the street from me, they have put 2 huge, like 8-person tables outside on the sidewalk. You can't get through past their patio. And they're selling bottles of booze, bottles, not even just cocktails. And they're out there every day with people lined up, hanging out, blasting music. This is every day. So, I mean, just also, why can't they just offer the takeout up till 5 o'clock? That way we cut down on that happy hour crowd, that inevitable summer happy hour crowd that's going to find a place to, hey, let's all go over here and stand outside and drink until 11 o'clock and get sloppy and pee on the street and everything that comes with it.
yeah. So you're thinking of a closing time at 5 p.m.
Yeah, copy the list. Look at it. I think they're good suggestions.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. Okay. So I don't want to cut you off. Are you pretty much done?
I'm done.
Okay, great. Lois, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay. You probably can't see me. Something went awry. Okay, this is legally making it brown bagging because they'll probably have brown bags and not plastic bags. Mar is correct, and other people have told me that you can order full bottles of liquor. I think that with Susan mentioning that there should be some, like a certain amount of food ordered and a minimum of drinks, that's a good stipulation. But we're dealing with like the West Village, Greenwich Village, East Village. This is a state bill. So I would be curious to hear what upstate has to say, because it is, and the outer boroughs, excuse me, I am an outer borough girl. You drink and drive. You go and you pick it up, and then you, with your car or your taxi or whatever, and then you drink, and you drink in the car, like particularly on upstate. So I am against this in terms of, I think we have to limit it, not a year. I think we have to wait until the health department, citywide, statewide, the New York State Commissioner says that the COVID-19 is under control. Otherwise, it's like Mar said, it's not just going to be six-ish like in Long Island. It's going to be all day, all night to 4 a.m., even in the winter, because they're going to have heat lamps. And even if they don't have a sidewalk cafe, they're going to have people drinking outside. So I think we have a lot of work to work on, and not for 2 years. And this is, and significantly, who gets the tips when it comes to deliveries? How does that work? Because I know many times, the delivery people do not get the tips. Or it's divided among the bartender, the waitress, the so on, the owner. And I'd like to know how that's going to work. And this is a very uncomfortable situation. And I'm surprised at Brad, because he's on the health committee for New York State Senate. I'm finished.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lois. Just to correct something I said, it wasn't the fact that the person had marijuana, it's the fact that they were smoking marijuana. So it's not the fact that you have a beer in your hand. It's the fact that you have an open container of beer and you're drinking it. Okay, that's where you break the law. So go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're very close to getting recreational marijuana in this state. And that's going to have a heavy influence on drinking outside too.
Yeah, no, it's okay, never mind. Go ahead, Dr. Smith.
Yeah. What's interesting is that Brad lives, he doesn't have any bars around him. I know exactly where he lives because my church is next door. And it's unfortunate, and all the things that have been said so far, the real problem is going to be enforcement. Who's going to monitor those kinds of things, okay? And until COVID is over, bars should not be allowed to sell drinks if the customers have nowhere to sit, because that just encourages them to stand on the sidewalks. And I think it's a horrible, horrible bill. And I think it really will negatively influence our quality of life. And it's just going to spiral out of place. And the enforcement's going to be a real issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Katie Manero, go ahead.
I'm here.
Yep.
Hear me? Yep. I just want to say a point of information because recently it came to my attention that Cowgirl is willing to sell someone 3 margaritas as long as they buy one $1 individual snack size package of Fritos. Not 3 packages, but 1 package of Fritos, which seems to get you an unlimited number of margaritas. And I think that goes to many of the points that we've heard here. And I just thought it was a concrete example of what's going on.
Yeah,
I hope
you're absolutely right. Currently, Katie, in a bar situation, you're right. Fritos will do it. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like a big bag. It's a teeny little bag. Yeah.
Understood.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Cormac, go ahead.
Sorry, had to unmute myself. Okay, so first I want to say, like, I really appreciate Susan's idea on approach to this in the sense of, I mean, I'm tempted to say, how do we put lipstick on a pig? But harm mitigation. How do we make a blow that's coming less bad? But we do have here something that we do often with applications that we internally refer to as the denied but. And it does seem to me that our input as a committee board, there's no reason our input on this can't be that we think it's a terrible idea or a poor one, let's say, that's going to have a lot of negative effects, and detail that, and then also offer up, if you're going to do this, we think these things would, help to mitigate the impact and the harm. Now, of those things, there have been a lot of good things said so far. I urge everybody to look at Mara's list. It's great. I thought Susan's things were great. I have a few myself, but before I get to them or start, I will get to them right away, but I start with it here, right? Again, on the timing, we keep saying 2 years, right? That's not what the bill says.
No.
The bill says 2 years from the end of the emergency order. The emergency order currently is set to end on September the 7th, this fall. So it would be 2 years from the fall. And the emergency order can be extended by Governor Cuomo if he feels that the health pandemic emergency hasn't all left by Labor Day, right? So it can and probably will be extended. And I'm not a lawyer, but that seems to me like that might be an argument that the thing extends beyond that. Further, also, if you look at the bill in like section 1(3)(e), right, it says that at the end of this thing, towards the end of it, the SLA is going to gather together and do a study about how great it went, right? Which is clearly anticipating, right, potential legislative consideration of a more permanent enactment. So we say it's 2 years. 2 years is 2 years is a community transformation, right? if it went 2 years. I think that one of the first things we should ask for, right, is first of all, a date certain for it to end, to sunset, not this depending on when the executive order. And secondly, a date that's much closer than what is effectively, if it's from September, 2.25 years from now, right? So that's one. The second thing on the enforcement issue, I mean, Bob, I appreciate your point. It is true that in the past, you know, they have tended to enforce open container laws when mayors and political leaders, right, feel the need for a crackdown because of public outcry. Now, under the current administration, they've actually changed their official rules and guidance that actually discourages such enforcement of things. I don't know that that will change in the future. Who can say? But I will say that one of the reasons that the police are reluctant to enforce it is this. The judges don't take it that seriously in my experience. Now, Bob, I'm not a lawyer like you, but I used to be a judicial delegate, and I know a lot of lawyers. I know a lot of judges. People got elected to the civil court and then became criminal court judges. And I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of them, and they regard that kind of thing as, you know, for the most part, it was, you know, this person's paid the price by having to show up in court today, forget it. So if you actually want better enforcement of it, one of the things the law could do is give stronger guidance to what the mandatory punishments would be for anybody who is cited for it, for open container. Because I know that sounds like, what does it matter if the police don't enforce it? But the police are more likely to enforce it if they think it actually does something. Rather than it just means I got to go down to the court and the judge kicks it and nothing happens, you know. So that's the thought on the enforcement. I also just want to flag an issue that the bill talks a lot about approved delivery vehicles, right, for making these deliveries. I'm not sure what that language equals out to. The approved delivery vehicles by the SLA. Is that going to mean cars and Ubers? Is that going to mean bikes? Either way, if it's cars or it's bikes, we all know that there are going to be a bunch of issues around that. Just want to flag it. Now, in terms of the other things that we can do, I love Susan's point about, I was thinking the same thing about, you know, the alcohol versus food ratio. I think 50-50 is too high. I think, you know, the alcohol should be, you know, 35% max of the bill. I think there should be a minimum amount, as she said, of, you know, how much food you have to get this much alcohol. And the, you know, Katie's point about the cowgirl is like a great example we can use to make our point. I do think this should be, if it happens, delivery only, no carry out, right? Somebody comes, takes it, delivers it to the home, checks the ID, and does it that way. I understand it's easier to check IDs on carry out, but carry out leads to exactly the kind of street scenes that we're talking about and exactly what we want to think. So I think we should just say there should not be, in our opinion, there should not be carry out, there should be delivery only. I also agree with the multiple people on the board and the community who've said that we should limit the hours. I love Mars, 12 to 5 hours. I was going to be more generous, something like 11 to 10, but certainly what it says right now, you can do it all the hours that the thing is open. I think is crazy. Letting people like do this till 4 a.m. and things like that. You know, we need to shut it down at some point earlier in the evening, because what that'll do is it'll push it more towards truly a thing where you get the alcohol with food, truly a restaurant dinner thing, and not ordering down to bars for tequila and rum. As a matter of fact, we might as well float the idea of allowing the provision only for restaurants and not for bars, right?
But,
I mean,
but you would effectively, Cormac, you would effectively be doing that if you set an hour. In other words, some cities, most cities in upstate New York don't have 4 a.m. So that's just New York City. But Albany and Buffalo and those cities you know, they have set laws that don't allow the sale of alcohol in an establishment to run past a certain hour. I think it's more like 12 or 1.
Bob, let me make my point. My point is, because I must have said it wrong and you missed it, is my point is, I don't see in terms of our input, since they're just gonna do whatever, that we can't even float the idea of, you know, of writing in that it shouldn't be bars. But whether or not that flies, I think we should limit the hours in order to mitigate it, you know, or mitigate, rather in order to motivate it to be a restaurant, not a bar thing. That and the food stuff, right, that Susan was talking about together will really help us to make sure that this is restaurants delivering alcohol with meals and food, which I personally don't object to, right? I mean, if they're delivering it. I think Mara's point about no outdoor seating is really great. I liked her fines and 3 strike systems the other day for the other proposal that is not this one, when Gruber was talking about 30-day reviews and things like that, some sort of mechanism by which, you know, people are reviewed and bad apples are punished swiftly would be necessary. I don't have a lot of confidence in it, but, you know, I mean, we should have that. You know, I think that those things can help us to make it work if we put those in. I'm not enthusiastic or, you know, that optimistic, to be honest.
So Cormac, you make, as usual, very good points. And so, you know, my takeaway from one of the, I think the more important things that you said was, this bill is designed for restaurants. It's not, you know, what is the intent of the bill? Is it, because we're looking at it like, you know, guess what? The guy who's writing this bill could be very naive, either that or he could be very sly, one or the other, right? The way it's being written. And so, you know, if you take it from the naivety side of things, it's designed to help a restaurant to deliver or to have people take out, including drinks. And, you know, from all of our vantage points, we probably don't have a problem with that as long as it's going to go home, you know, and the person's going to eat and drink in the home. And so that's, you know, so to a certain extent, it almost makes sense to attack it that way. Don't you agree?
I would agree. And that's why I say, I think we can explicitly say that, right? And say, you know, that it should be for restaurants and not bars. And then we should say, these are the things that we could do, you know, to help them. The food, you know, the requirements of food, make sure that those are robust, right? The percentages of food versus alcohol in the purchase, the hours that it can be done.
That's a key.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Susan.
I wanted to say, because this was the reason I raised my hand. The establishments that are selling this must have kitchens. It's another way to tie this in. We don't want bars to go from interior bars to exterior bars. We want this to be the sale of alcohol to accompany food to continue their business as it was designed.
Right. If we required full kitchens, that basically takes out almost all the bars.
And okay, I mean, you know, these are all great ideas. And then I just want to make sure that nobody else has raised their hand, because you know, you're done, Susan. Cormac, are you done?
I'm done.
I am, but I do also want to point out that the no outdoor seating thing that Mar raised is key, because, you know, we always put that in stipulations, but if it's in the law that you can't have, you know, you can't put benches and things out there, it's just going to make it enforcement easier. And then the other thing is, I just want to go back to this length thing. 2 years is a really long time. And when you say it's going to be reviewed every 6 months, by who? What does that review look like? I'm, you know, I would prefer that they say 6 months and renewable each 6 months up to 2 years, so that the presumption is that it ends unless the review approves, for instance, you know?
Yeah, and I think the design of the law is for permanent. It's for it to be permanent. I mean, I think that's what is going on here.
Yeah, I mean, if you, like I said, if you look at that section things, they're supposed to do a study, right? You know, at least 2 months before, and no sooner than 4 months before, a study of how this went and all. But legislatures don't order agencies to do studies for them. except in support of a conversation about further legislation. I mean,
no doubt. So Dr. Smith, you still have your hand raised. Are you? Do
Thank
want
you.
to-
Yes. While I respect, can you hear me?
I got you.
While I respect everyone's point of view, we have spent an enormous amount of time talking about how each of us feel. Carter, I think what we ought to do is maybe you can make a working group of people from the board and then let those people sort of come up with things and then bring it back to the full board. I think we spent a tremendous amount of time here on this. It's nice to hear what everybody says. I think our time could be used better if we were to put it in the form of a working group.
I appreciate that, Shirley, except that the working group is us. So we kind of got stuck with it, and it was put on our agenda. So I apologize for that, but I think we're the right folks to have done it. And I think Brad was actually inviting us to do it.
So is someone going to make a report about what has been said?
We're going to do a resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, good idea, Shirley. There should be. You're on it.
You want to help?
What did Cormac say?
I said, great idea about the working group. You're on it.
Oh, no. You know what, Cormac? That reminds me. Whenever it's called the that rule, where Velcro rule, when you make a statement, you make a suggestion, you're stuck with it. But no.
All right. So
I don't mind adding my 2 cents once I see what's written. It's not a problem.
Thank you, Shirley.
So
Thank
we
you,
still-
Shirley. So
Katie
guys,
has her hand raised and Kate Quinn has her hand raised.
yeah. So before we go on any further here, okay, we still have to vote on the items, and it's 9 o'clock, and I'm going to take a page out of Valerie and tell you guys 9 o'clock is late, and we've been doing this for a long time. So let's cut to the chase here. Go ahead, Katie, and go ahead, and then I'll call on you, Catherine.
Am I connected, Bob?
You're connected. Go.
Okay, great. The only thing I wanted to point out for you to point out is that, as I understand, we're under a time constraint, Bob. Am I correct in that?
No, there's no time constraint that I am aware of.
Okay, so they're not considering this legislation right away, fast.
I don't know. We'll find out, and if there is one,
okay,
we'll move quicker. How's that?
Okay. Just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Yep. And I think Ms. Quinn are you still with us, Ms. Quinn?
Yes, I am. And
Go ahead.
Just give me a moment. I think that CB2, who I admire, has underestimated their power. CB2 has been asked for their opinion, and I hear universally that the opinion is this is a terrible proposal. I think that it is a mistake to put forward stipulations, hours, this, that, benches, that we all know are unenforceable and will not work. I think that this is one of the few cases where we just say no. I think that if the CB2 issues a recommendation that the liquor can only be delivered with food, delivered, not taken out, that it can have great weight, and we can use other friends to help us explain to the state legislature why this is not an acceptable proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. Okay, so I think we're done on the discussion, guys. And I'm going to move on to voting on the applications that we have.
Are we in business session now?
We've been in business session.
Oh.
We weren't. Well, we weren't. We didn't.
Well, you were accepting members of the public's
We didn't
discussion.
we didn't officially make a business session, so.
You don't have the public
I wasn't very
discussing.
official about it, but why would we want to have a business session on that bill when we just discussed it so eloquently? Unless other people would like to speak, and I want to give them an opportunity, but it is
No,
9.
we weren't in business session. I don't know that we need to have another business session for it. That's
On the bill. Okay. All right. So we're all in agreement. We're going to move on to voting on the applications. Let me just get them up. Let's let's start with 113 Mulberry Restaurant, Manero's Pizza, OP, Little Italy area. Gentleman also operates the business on Carmine Street. Is there anybody who would like to speak on that item? Anybody have an opinion? Okay, it seems to me like that's a deny and less, but if anybody disagrees with me. Okay.
I agree.
Okay, you could raise your hand if you disagree. And so, could someone just count, Donna, could you count how many there are of us so we know?
I just wanted to say one thing. I mean, I'm going to go along with the deny unless, but I believe that Carter raised some issues about the use of the outside space, which he said he was going to address. And I'd like to see those promises memorialized.
Katie, he answered the question. He answered the question very specifically and said there was a speaker on the inside that was near the exit, and that was causing the problem, and he removed it.
Okay, he did say he removed it. I didn't write that down. Remove problematic speaker. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and those guys, if you remember that application, Katie, we told them they didn't have a permit for that basement area, and they went back.
I remember.
Okay.
You know, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
And this is the exact same scenario where they had this very screwy middle area, outdoor area that was in the middle of the building. I don't know if you guys remember the application. And,
yes,
and now they've just taken it out completely because they know they can't do it. All right. So.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, all right. So
I just was concerned about that one issue.
Okay. So how many do we got?
Do
we have 10?
I think we have 11, but I'm just trying to figure
All
it
right.
out.
Let's go 11-0 for now, and then we'll try to figure it out as we move on. Okay, so next application is Felix, Greene Street, Soho. The coffee place that wants an OP. And the building where Susan lives. So I don't know if Susan's still here. Oh, we got people raising their hands.
Here.
I'm sorry.
I'm here.
Katie,
I'm back.
Okay, so Katie, Susan, and Shirley, you raised your hands. Is it on the last application or is it on this application?
Mine's on coffee, on this application.
Okay, good. Okay, so.
Mine too.
Okay, so I'll let you go ahead first, Susan, okay?
Okay, thank you. Well, clearly to the people in our building, this is a concern for all the obvious reasons. It's licensing full OP to a space that's never been licensed before. We're concerned about the owners. I thought Carter's questions were very good about their other location. You know, I see now we may, if this doesn't happen, we could get another application in, but if that spot is destined to be some sort of restaurant cafe, then you certainly don't want to start with the full OP. And that seems risky, especially now when we know we're going to start, you know, we anticipate the possibility of getting more and more requests for more broadening of uses from restaurants because of financial hardships. So it was vague to me, to be honest, about their use of alcohol. I mean, are they a bar? They're not a bar. I mean, he's saying 80% of their customers are going to be from locally people from the neighborhood. I can't even grasp that. You know, there aren't enough people in the neighborhood to support a quirky coffee bar, you know, alcohol bar like he's talking about. I mean, that just doesn't even, I can't believe that's the basis of any business plan, opening a place like that in Soho. So, I mean, I thought before he said that it would have been about the offices and people who work in the neighborhood and who are coming in at the end of the day, but he denied that. He said that wasn't his audience. So the full OP is not something I really feel is possible to be comfortable about, even though they express the willingness to be accommodating. That is troubling.
Dr. Smith?
Yeah, I do not feel, first of all, I have a concern because of the area, the establishment has not had a liquor license before. And I'm not so convinced about all of the special kinds of drinks that they're going to make with the coffee to have it a full OP. So I am actually opposed to a full OP for this establishment.
And I will say, guys, the Hotel Hugo thing is a big deal. Okay. It's a big deal, and Carter made it pretty clear.
That
And
place,
so,
I mean, yeah.
you know, with this question. So I'm just saying, for me, it kind of comes down to whether or not we want to offer the beer and wine versus, so, you know, it's like, but it's a little two-edged to do that because of the history that, you know, the applicant has at the Hotel Hugo. But, you know, that would be enough to deny even the beer and wine if it was completely established in I don't know if Carter's here, he thinks that, but
I don't think so.
yeah.
No, he's not.
He's not
No.
here.
So
I mean,
so
a wine bar is a very different scenario, but as you just said, it has nothing to do with the history of their business model. They're all about coffee and the alcohol in the coffee. It's just.
I think Susan, I think my understanding based on what people are telling me and shaking their heads is that we would be against the on-premise application. The question really comes down to is whether or not we would give an alternative that would be fine with beer and wine.
Can I just also, I'd like to hear if she's willing to share from Valerie, because I know I saw in the chat things that she's familiar with their operation in another location.
Val, you still with us? Yep. You got to unmute yourself.
Yep.
There you
No,
go.
I know. Oh, trust me, I know.
I know. You're the best. You're the best. You know.
Oh, I
I'm
don't know
learning
about
from you.
that, guys. I try to learn every day. So, I didn't realize the Hotel Hugo connection. So that was a big disappointment.
It was.
To really hear, because otherwise, I've had nothing but positive experiences at their location uptown. It's always my meeting place when I have to be up in that part of town, just because it's just quite lovely. Ken Folk is I guess that must be his partner. He's a very famous interior designer. It's just beautiful, and the product is beautiful. It would be from an aesthetic and just from what I've experienced, it would be a very welcome thing for the neighborhood. But man, just hearing from what I know, if someone is a principal on a license, they are responsible regardless of what owner or what type of management they have, or their name is on the license. So that really, I'm very disappointed to actually hear that, because otherwise, I don't sit on this committee, but I was very disappointed to hear that. So that's my testimony about that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Cormac. You got anything else you want to say? Okay. I still have a couple people's hand raised. Mar, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I want to echo what Valerie said about his history with Hugo. You know, I checked him out earlier today. The only video on his Facebook page is like some crazy, loud, wild Cafe Hugo event. So there's that. And everything, in fact, all the places he's visited, all of the things that he has, pinned, it's all Bar Hugo, Bar Hugo, Bar Hugo. So, but what was really disturbing was his refusal to take any responsibility and the denial that he was in any way responsible. How do we know if something goes wrong in this place, this new space? How do we know he's going to step up and take responsibility? I just feel like he'll be like, oh, but I wasn't there. I'm just, an owner, the manager. I just feel like if he's not taking responsibility for things that happened in the past, he's certainly not going to. And also, this is an Instagram place. This is not a local coffee shop for locals. This is for young people who come to take pictures of the coffee, pictures of the gaudy interior, interesting interior, opinion. And I've read all the reviews on Yelp. Coffee is apparently not that good.
Okay. But what about the beer wine? That's, to me, is the issue.
Why did they need it?
Okay. So I'll let Susan go last, but everybody needs to have an answer on that one. Okay. Are we going to also go along with the beer wine, or are we going to say no to everything? Okay. Go ahead, Susan.
Well, you know, the cafe bar Hugo issue is the credibility crusher. And if we didn't have that, it would be very reasonable to offer them beer and wine. But we're coming into this feeling, I feel like we're walking into a trap, because why would their new place be monitored and controlled and have a different persona than their other? I mean, I know Valerie loves their coffee place uptown, but you know, I think we are taking a big risk to put the first restaurant on that street, and you want to go in with a good owner. So I'm not comfortable with it.
Well, let me just play devil's advocate for a second. So the beer and wine, say they're there for 2 years and with the beer and wine, and they're a good neighbor, and you actually start to get to know them and you start to like them, and then they come back for the on premise. So I'm just saying, that would be the way to do it, versus saying no completely at this point.
It's a very big, it's interesting because it's a big place to just have a coffee. I guess you're right. I understand, Bob. I mean, if they surprised us and we had a nice little wine bar on the street that closed at 10 o'clock, I think people in the neighborhood might really like that. That does feel like a positive thing. But the full OP with the incredibly expensive.
Yeah. We're not talking about the OP now. We're not talking about the OP. Okay. The OP is we've already agreed that the OP is not going to be, that's not going to be our recommendation. Okay. So I just think to a certain extent, there is a credibility issue. The credibility issue can be won back by opening up with the beer and wine and having a nice location, just like the other location is up at Park Avenue. And then, that's how they earn their way into the Graces. But an OP, with that history, you got to prove yourself after that history. And
right.
That's my thinking on it. And I think we have more credibility by saying that. That's all.
And I would just want to add in that their other place did only have the beer and wine. They were successful there with just the beer and wine. So they
that's
should be able
interesting.
to
That's
be
right.
successful with this. And then the negatives of this one is this is later hours than the other place, and this would be their first full OP. I know we're not doing it, but if we were to do it, that would be their first full OP. At least this, to me, has a better chance of being successful because it's based on the model they're already doing that is successful.
Except, Donna, remember, they were in the process right now of applying for the full OP for that location, except the virus slowed them down. So
they can't open to past 5. They're not going to do it there. They want to do it here. That was their
very different environment up there.
Yeah.
And why should we be the guinea pig?
Right.
Let the Park Avenue place be the guinea pig.
All right. So I take it we got deny and less, or no, we have deny. We have deny outright, but we would be willing to go with the beer wine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
If anybody is against that, just Susan, are you against it? You raised your hand.
No, I forgot to unraise my hand. No.
Okay, good.
I'm fine.
Just raise real quick. I'm in Susan's court. I'm surprised she actually feels a little sympathetic with the beer and wine. I mean, there was so much talk about Cafe Hugo that I feel like the beer and wine is what we give to people to give themselves a chance when they have not proven themselves. They don't necessarily have a credibility issue. It's our to test to see, to give them a shot at the OP. This feels like we're undermining all the history of the whole Hugo thing by giving him this benefit of the beer wine. I mean, not in this case, but you're saying deny and less, but we go with the beer wine if they accept it. So I don't feel comfortable with that because I feel like we talked about Cafe Hugo being a terrible situation. And I feel like this is giving him a chance that he doesn't deserve, quite honestly. I mean, I'm
Well,
sorry to hear, I'm sorry to say, because I'd love the little wine bar, but who knows? It might turn into another mini Hugo, or, based on what Mar's saying and on what he might want to do, the similar press. And I mean, if he wants this space, if it's that hot a space, it seems to me somebody else might come along and be okay with a beer, wine, and, do something similar. So I'm for a deny, but I'm not super comfortable with allowing for beer and wine. That's all I'm saying tonight. That's all I got.
Yeah, well, we could put that in the resolution that there were still concerns that with regards to recommending because of the history, but to a certain extent, we're giving him another chance to establish that he could be someone who he says he's going to be in the future. So,
But Bob, we don't want him coming back to us in 3 months, nevertheless a year, suddenly saying they want to be open until midnight and 1 o'clock on Saturdays. That these are early hours, but we often say things like that, and you can't come back and ask for more later than they do anyway. But at least we want to set that up if we agree to go ahead.
If he comes back for later, then he has totally changed the profile of what he has presented to us. And then we can actually say, wait a minute, you've got a whole other operation going on. You've actually lied to us.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, I think we got it. Okay, guys. So,
Okay.
So next up is going to be, Takeshi Sushi, the upgrade application. Okay, and to be honest with you, that guy, he was very impressive to me. And that, to me, I know this is an unlicensed, at least in terms of an on-premise, but I was impressed by the guy, and I the way he was able to explain what he does and how he's going to mix the drinks with what he does. And, this is the kind of business guy that we, I think, want to promote. That's my 2 cents. But I was smitten by the guy, I really was.
The only question I have, does anybody know better than I that location, if there's any, I think he's very successful right now. I get a feeling people wait for hours for the food, I believe. So I'm just curious if anybody has any concerns about any impact with the extra seats, with people waiting inside and having a cocktail. I don't think that I do. I just wanted to raise that issue.
When people are so driven for the food, that's what we want to see. We're going to continue to have an operator for whom alcohol is an accompaniment and not a central feature.
Agree.
Yeah, Lois, go ahead.
I'm so totally impressed. I'm not really an advocate of full liquor for sushi restaurants, even at $200 and $300 per person, but his answers were perfect. And I've never heard those answers from any of the other sushi places that asked for full liquor. So I think I'm inclined to go and say yes.
I didn't know I was doing sake all wrong until tonight. So there you go.
The proteins. All right, so is there anyone against the idea of a denying less with the upgrade? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone raise their hands. So I got denying less for Takeshi Sushi.
Yeah.
All right, now last but not least is our friends from Mollusca. I know I'm saying that wrong, but
Mollusca. I know Donna should take the charge on this, but I'm going to say deny.
Yeah.
I was totally insulted by the emails that we received, Bob, from you. Not by you, but the emails. I couldn't believe what we were seeing. And I think it's a little bit telling that their attorney did not appear.
No, I don't think that's it. The attorney did not appear because, and he said in the email, I believe, he did not appear because they were trying to reduce costs. Okay.
He did say that, but I don't know. It struck me wrong.
Well, I wouldn't put a whole lot into the fact that the attorney wasn't there. Okay, but I would put a lot into the fact that, that this was not negotiated and, and
That
they're trying, they're trying to put one over on us to a certain extent.
That attorney knows that this is a standard stick.
Yeah,
That's what bothered me.
Absolutely. And they're also, the community, nobody's thrilled about this in the first place. I mean, it's no New York experience. The thing with the music we never do. When he talked about, he's got a singer with there and listening, the singer's going to run around. So it's one thing adding in the extensive drinks on top of that in meatpacking, has its own reputation that everybody anticipates when they go in there. So if you don't put limits to curb that reputation, it's already going to be that. I'm 100% for deny.
Yeah, that's it.
Go ahead, Cormac.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely with that perspective. It seems to me we have already bent ourselves over way backwards for this guy and give him all kinds of things. And his responsive attitude is like, what? Outrageous, no boozy brunches. You didn't tell me anything. You didn't tell me anything about that. It's like, hey, I didn't tell you to put on a coat if you go out in winter either, but come on. We're never going to give you or anybody else's boozy brunches and things. It's a standard kind of a stipulation things. And he really seemed to feel aggrieved and feeling like he had given us something.
Yes.
Or something like that. And his attitude to me bespoke somebody who is not going to be a good neighbor, who is not going to be a partner in making this happen, making this work. He's threatening. He's like, I'll go to the SLA and I'll ask for everything. And I'm like, okay,
go ahead.
Fine, deny.
I'll be up there. If they open it up, I'll be up there.
Go ahead, Mar.
Yes, everything. What he said.
Okay, good. It's so funny. You pointed down, and it's like
he might be somewhere else for you.
No, but in my picture, he's actually down, and you pointed down. His head is right below you. It's great.
Mar knows that if she wants to find me, she's always above me.
Yeah.
Well, what's the show where the guys are like, what's it called? Where you have all the different
Squares.
Hollywood Squares. This is totally Hollywood Squares here. Okay. All right. So I think we did it. I think those were the. Can you think of it? Did we get all the applications?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So one last thing before we end it tonight. We have, if anyone can help out with the resolutions, that would be very helpful, because we also have the resolution dealing with the Senate bill.
I want to help with the Senate bill for sure.
Okay. All right.
I'll take Takeshi Sushi.
Okay. All right. That's great.
And do you want me to do Manero's too?
That's fine. If you want to do two, that would be great.
Do you want me to do 104 Greene, or I can't because I live there?
Of
You
course
can do
you
it.
can.
Why can't you do it? Yes, you
Okay,
can.
because I didn't really hear the others because I was at the bid meeting.
Right.
Yeah, you can do it, and just make sure you get the information from Carter, about Hotel Hugo, the full details, because that's going to have to be in there. All right.
Okay.
Are we going to be able to review the Senate resolution at the same time as the liquor licenses, or is that going to be a slightly separate email?
Everything has to be done this weekend. Okay, and just remember, we also have other ones that we heard, so there's the Mollusca, whatever, and then there's the what do you call it? The one Hyundai. So we have
Hyundai.
And then there's Spring Street, which was also a deny and less from May 3rd or May 18th. I'm sorry, May 18th. So there's a number of resolutions. So the more help I can get, the better, because this is going to be a busy weekend in terms of resolutions.
Are there any deadlines associated with the bill? Like, do we know, is Brad still trying to, amend it before he presents it fully?
No, I don't think so. I think he just, I don't know the answer to that question. But I can tell you that our full board meets next week. So it makes sense for us to get this done and get it to our full board so that we get it out of our way and we move on to, because we will have more applications next month, and we don't want to have things hanging out.
No, plus I think if he's looking to do something, we should get, I mean, just so he hears our comments while he's thinking about this before he thinks about it too much. But isn't our full board, it's not next week, it's the week after, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds too early.
Yeah, it's too
Oh, I'm
early.
sorry.
Next week we have another SLA meeting with a lot of applications from my neighborhood that are.
Yeah, so
gonna-
if we can get the resolutions done this weekend, I'm telling you.
I'd say we really need them by Sunday night. So if something happens where you can't help out, that would just be great to know ahead of time. It's so much appreciated. So
It
that
is, believe
get
me.
done this weekend, it's really so helpful.
Okay, so just so I got, Katie, you're doing the sushi and
the
what was the other
pizza.
one?
And the pizza.
Katie's doing sushi
Pizza.
and pizza. She's eating well.
And Susan, you're going to do the deny for Felix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And if anybody else has got any other volunteers out there, we could use it. Okay.
I'll do the Mollusca one because I work.
Who's
I have
that?
a question.
Donna, I'm going to do.
Donna's going to do Mollusca. Okay.
I have a question on the renewals
Yeah.
that were on our agenda for tonight.
Yeah. Renewals, it used to be that our community board, if, they put the renewals. So renewal is like an administrative type of thing. So it's administrative up at the SLA. And in fact, they have to service with a 30-day notice every 2 years to follow the law. And then there's a renewal. And the renewals, but they're not treated like a new application. They're treated like an administrative. It's basically they're paying them money, and it's administrative, and they have to do it every 2 years. And so it used to be that our community board thought, whoa, every 2 years, we're going to review the license if there's problems. Okay, so we would put all the renewals on the calendar, and then we'd write underneath the calendar, and we'd say, if you have any problems with these locations, you should bring them to our attention. Well, since that time, the SLA is, every time we do that, by the time the resolution got to them, all right, they'd already approved the renewal.
Too late.
Okay, it's because it's administrative and no one was caring about it. And they told us a couple years back that renewals don't matter. If you have a problem with a place, bring it to our attention right away. And so that's what we've been doing. So if there's a problem, we've reviewed places we call it review of their method of operation, and then we say we usually have a resolution that explains that here are the problems and it ought to be reviewed, and maybe this should be disciplinary. But that's what we do now.
And
I hope that answers the question, Mara.
Thank you, it did.
And
Yeah.
if somebody's breaking their stipulations or things, we keep hearing that not only should this be reported to the 311, but really it should be reported to the SLA so they have records of that on file. Because often they don't get the 311 complaint. So they've been saying recently that they'll look at their SLA records and say, we don't have anything. So if somebody's bad, the SLA needs to hear about it from everybody.
Okay, and one last thing, okay, before we go tonight.
And then one question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I
sorry,
just
Susan.
wanted to be sure that for Felix, we're doing a deny of the OP, but we're suggesting they consider the beer and wine.
We're going to deny it, and that's the way it's going to be. And then if they come back to us and say, well, we'll do beer wine, then that's okay. But the resolution, I will send you a resolution where we've done that before.
Okay, thank you. I had just asked Don if that's a big help. Thank you.
Okay. And then also, just one last thing. So up at the SLA last week or a week and a half ago, the Museum of Ice Cream was heard. And some of you may remember it. Others do not, because you were not on our committee at that time, but that was a big application on Broadway, and our resolution was against it. There were people in the area that were very against it, and they originally came in with 2 a.m. and the Museum of Ice Cream, it was basically an Instagram location for people, and the full OP and the whole bit. With the COVID now, you can't go up there. So Carter would go up there and make our points. So what we've been doing recently is, in lieu of going up there, because we can't go up there, we write in a letter supplementing the resolution and send in the resolution as well. And this time, we kind of changed our view a little bit, because when we do that, we also dig up, we get a FOIL or Freedom of Information request from the SLA. So we actually get the 500-foot hearing decision. So there's a decision or a recommendation from the judge who reviews the 500-foot. And so based on that, what that judge said, we use that in our letter, and the SLA actually listened to us. And they basically, the compromise we said is, if you're going to be a museum, you got to have museum hours, okay? And the museum hours are closed by 8 o'clock. And we kind of got that from the judge, who judge said, I don't, I see the public interest, but it should close by 8. That's my recommendation. And so we jumped on that, and our letter was successful. The commissioner, who's been kind of tough on community boards, who's from a community board 4, actually was the one who started out saying, if it is truly a museum, and I agree with the community board, it should close and have museum hours. And then the chairman jumped in and agreed with her. And then the other commissioner, who originally said, oh, I'll go along with midnight, he counters and says, you're right. So they have to close by 8 o'clock, I think. And so the question whether or not they'll even open, we don't know. But the reality is that our letters do matter, our resolutions do matter, and so I just want to let everybody know that. Okay.
That's very
That
good.
was a good.
Thank you. Museum hours. Perfect.
Very good.
Yeah, because that's really, I mean, you're going to say you're a museum, then be a museum and not something else. But anyway, guys, be well. Thanks
you.
everybody for
Everybody
being
be
here
well and be
tonight.
safe out there.
Okay, and we've
Yeah.
been through so much, and I'm sorry I didn't get into all the COVID and all the rioting and the all
We
the
need a
terrible
break
things
from
that have been
that,
happening to our
please.
businesses. And I'm sorry about that. I hope you don't think I was, not being sensitive to the situation. But my thinking is that we have such long meetings, and I just wanted to try to get through things. That's all. Okay.
That was
Take a
very-
chapter out of Valerie's book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, if anybody wants some news on that,
Sure.
George W. Bush today came out in favor of the protesters and condemning the situation in Minneapolis. And at the
Wow.
same time, it was announced in the Hill that a whole bunch of former Bush administration officials have formed a new super PAC called 43 Alumni for Biden. That is a super PAC to support Joe Biden in the fall. So it seems like the whole Bush network is moving against the president.
Good.
Unbelievable.
Well, let's get some Republicans actually in office to do that too. That would be really something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Everyone have a great night.
Talk
okay?
to Romney.
You too. Bye.
Good night.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bob,
Stay
where's
safe,
Carter?
stay safe, stay
Bob,
healthy.
where's Carter?
Bye.
He left.
Bob,
Carter's
where's
gone
Carter?
already. He left.
I
He
know,
left.
but that's not a good sign.
He had to get home.
I know, but he didn't get back on either. So I'll text him.
You text him.
Yeah, he answered me last night. He'll answer me.
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay.
Bye.